Chapter 1040. So, Tongning asked nervously, "You've exceeded my expectations," Mo Ting said before he turned around. He did not say much else to Tongning, but these few words were enough, because this was the biggest affirmation for Tongning. After hearing this, Tongning let out a laugh. According to Mo Ting's personality, he had high expectations for everything, so he wouldn't compliment someone so straightforwardly. So, exceeding expectations was already the best evaluation he could give. He acknowledged it. What did it mean to be acknowledged by Mo Ting? He was at the top of the business world and had a high ability to evaluate films. He also had a deep understanding of films and had an outstanding appreciation for them. How could Tongning not be excited? With this thought, Tongning jumped out of bed barefooted and ran over to Mo Ting's back to hug him. "Are you serious?" Mo Ting looked down at her feet, afraid that she would catch a cold. He turned around and carried her in his arms. "Even if you're at home, remember to wear shoes." "Are you serious?" "You'll understand once you see it," Mo Ting replied. "After the first trailer is edited, we can begin the test screening. Do your best to promote it and do a good job." "Okay." Tongning nodded her head. No matter what kind of image she had to the public, in front of Mo Ting, she would always be a little woman that needed to be protected and loved. President Mo was satisfied with Tongning's reaction. He placed her on the sofa and returned to the bedroom to retrieve a pair of slippers for her. With Mo Ting's support, Tongning was completely relieved. But just as Mo Ting was about to leave, Tongning stopped him and asked, "I forgot to ask you, does Hai Rui have the right to take back Superstar Media?" The contract clearly states that within 1 year of its establishment, Hai Rui can continue to operate as long as a qualified artist signs on. Xing Lan and Luo Sheng are considered your achievements. Afterwards, you will be reviewed every 6 months. If Superstar Media faces any difficulties or can't produce any good artists, Hai Rui has the right to deal with it. No matter who holds the shares right now, no matter how your shares are distributed, Hai Rui has the final say, Mo Ting replied. This is also the reason why the board agreed to allow you to set up your own agency as an artist of Hai Rui. In other words, if you want to take back Superstar Media, all you need to do is hold a board meeting. But once you take it back, Superstar Media will no longer exist. You need to think it over carefully, Mo Ting replied in a serious and professional manner. In reality, if Tongning hadn't asked, Mo Ting wouldn't have interfered with Superstar Media's matters. As long as Hai Rui's board of directors didn't pay attention to this issue, Superstar Media would be able to continue existing for another day. "In that case, let me think about it," Tongning replied. Mo Ting smiled as he lovingly rubbed Tongning's forehead. Even though both of them were in their 30s, their intimate actions made them look like they were still in a relationship. "You decide." Ma Weiwei and Han Xiucha had spent so much effort to snatch Superstar Media, but they had no idea that Hai Rui had so much to do with the establishment of Superstar Media. When Superstar Media first started, it wasn't because she wanted to be independent, but because she wanted to find artists. So, everything she did was for the sake of her artist development, and ultimately, she wanted them to enter Hai Rui. So, she never imagined that the things that they had agreed on would become a weapon that she could use to slap herself in the face. However, she wasn't sure if Long Jie and Lin Qian could accept the disappearance of Superstar Media. Superstar Media had a glorious past. Although it only lasted for a short period of time, it still created Xing Lan and Luo Sheng. As for Luo Yinghong, she had always worked hard. Especially during the turbulent times of Superstar Media's later years, she did not rely on Superstar Media at all. Instead, she obtained a lot of resources on her own. As long as she made the appropriate arrangements, Luo Yinghong wouldn't have any complaints. That morning, Long Jie arrived at Hyatt Regency. Tongning explained the relationship between Superstar Media and Hai Rui to her and asked for her opinion. "If you agree, Hai Rui's team will convert your shares and transfer them to you, including Lin Qian's shares." "I've already given my shares to Han Xiucha," Long Jie replied disappointedly. "You could just give them to Lin Qian. I don't have the right to accept them." "Does that mean you agree? I think returning to being your assistant is more suitable for me. I'm sure you're aware of Lin Qian's situation. After all, She's about to become a mother, and the Li family should avoid arousing suspicion. So, I think Lin Xian can change careers. That's why I agree, Long Jie replied. At least, it's better than letting those two jerks continue to abuse her. Tongning looked at Long Jie. Although Long Jie tried her best to hide it, Tongning could still see the tears in her eyes. That's true. No matter what you do, it's better to be my assistant. That way, you can hold your head high. Let me show you something. After speaking, Tongning showed Long Jie the finished product of the Ant Queen. As for Long Jie, she represented a different level of viewers. If Mo Ting represented professionalism, then Long Jie would be able to directly tell Tongning if she was going to be liked by the audience. As expected, Long Jie's gaze was immediately drawn to the screen. However, the first scene made her eyes open wide. Is this the film you and Xiao Sin starred in? Didn't you say it was just a promotional clip? Has the finished product already been released? You'll know after you watch it. This is the first version. Long Jie was ecstatic. After waiting for so long and enduring so many difficulties, she was finally going to see the finished product. How could she not be excited? She was the same as Tongning. Seeing Long Jie's reaction, Tongning wanted to comfort her. She knew that Long Jie had done a lot for superstar media. A lot. So, even if Hai Rui took back the film, Tongning was still going to attend the board meeting and help Long Jie fight for the rights. However, she didn't have anything to negotiate with at the moment, so she didn't want to give Long Jie an empty promise. Long Jie's taste in movies was very general. She only looked at films with high ratings, regardless of genre. She didn't reject anything as long as it was interesting. So, allowing Long Jie to watch The Ant Queen was also a form of vetting. Throughout the entire film, Long Jie remained in a highly nervous state. At times, she would break out in a cold sweat, and during dangerous moments, she would grab onto Tongning and shake her back and forth. You scared me to death. It wasn't until the final scene that Long Jie turned to look at Tongning and raised her thumb without saying a word. Afterwards, she patted her chest. Her heart couldn't take it anymore. That's impressive. Chapter 1041. Let me calm down for a bit. Long Jie leaned back on the sofa and didn't say a word for quite some time. Her gaze was fixed on the screen. Tongning, I've watched so many movies. Honestly, out of all the domestically produced sci-fi movies I've ever seen, this is the most thrilling one. The setting, the special effects, President Mo's acting, and the little girl are amazing. Don't be so dramatic. Tongning smiled as she poured Long Jie a glass of water. I'm being serious, Long Jie said as she took a sip of water and patted her chest. It's amazing. I'm being serious. Is it really amazing? It's amazing, okay? With a bit of post-production, it should be even better. Long Jie acted like she was injected with adrenaline as she gave the Ant Queen a high evaluation. I never expected you and Xiao San to do something like this. It's completely beyond my expectations. However, Xiao San and Zaheo's filming style is different. There are a few flaws, but it doesn't matter. That's why the Ant Queen is complete, because the two of them work together. Therefore, she could not accept any flaws in the content of the movie, except for this one. In that case, hasn't Zaheo seen it yet? Tongning shook her head. You are the second person to see the complete film. Even I haven't seen it in its entirety yet. I can't believe you're able to resist watching something so amazing. After watching The Ant Queen, Long Jie was so excited that she couldn't control herself. She never imagined that Tongning could actually produce a sci-fi film, especially not in such a short period of time and at such a great level. Stop bragging. Ting said that we need to do our marketing properly. So, we're going to be busy for the next period of time. Tongning closed her laptop. At this moment, all she could think about was how to make the film as perfect as possible. Don't worry, this film is going to be acknowledged by the fans. Trust me. Long Jie patted Tongning on the shoulder. In that case, I'll leave it to you to work hard. Just as Long Jie was about to nod her head, she suddenly felt her stomach churn. So, she rushed into the bathroom as Tongning followed behind. Are you pregnant again? No. I want to do a stomach check with Lu Che, but I haven't received the results yet. You're clearly pregnant. What does it have to do with your stomach? Tongning glared at her and shook her head. It seems I'll need to find a temporary assistant. Long Jie froze for a moment as she thought back to her previous periods. No, I have to buy a pregnancy test. You might as well ask Lu Che to accompany you to the hospital. Tongning handed the phone back to her. After receiving it, Long Jie warned in a serious tone. Even if I'm pregnant, I can still help you in the early stages of pregnancy. So, don't look for a temporary assistant for now. Got it, Tongning replied with a smile. Long Jie rushed out of Hyatt Regency. At this time, Tongning gave Zaheo a phone call. The film is out. Send it to me, Zaheo said before he hung up the phone. He also wanted to know how Tongning had completed the post-production in such a short period of time. If she only had 50% special effects, there was no way she would be able to change the image of a domestic sci-fi film. In fact, she would become a laughingstock. Tongning was very careful as she sent the first version to Zaheo. Her main task at the moment was to improve and edit it. Long Jie's stomach wasn't feeling well, but she never considered the possibility that it was because she was pregnant. This was in line with her carefree personality. Plus, a lot had happened at Superstar Media during this period of time, so it was understandable that she didn't realize she was pregnant. After arriving at the hospital on her own, Long Jie originally wanted to give Lu Che a phone call, but he did not pick up. Long Jie thought he was busy, so she did an ultrasound on her own. In the end, it turned out that she was indeed pregnant. In fact, she was already 2 months pregnant. Long Jie didn't know what to say. In the past, when Mother Lu told her to give birth, she refused. But now, the baby had unexpectedly arrived. As she held on to the results, Long Jie's emotions were extremely complicated. She originally wanted to go home and think about it. But as soon as she arrived home, she found the front door wide open. As soon as she pushed it open, she found Lu Che and Mother Lu sitting on the sofa. Obviously, the atmosphere between the mother and son wasn't good. Because of this, Long Jie deliberately hid the results. Why are you back? Lu Che asked. Don't you need to take care of them, madam? What's going on? Long Jie asked as she pointed to Mother Lu with her chin. You didn't tell me who you were meeting today. I simply came back to get some documents and bumped into her, Lu Che explained. Don't overthink it. I didn't ask her out. Hearing this, Mother Lu sneered. I've never heard of a mother needing her wife's permission to see her son. Lu Che, that's not what your father and I taught you. For the sake of this woman, you've abandoned your parents. You've gone too far. Why are you here today? Lu Che asked as he turned to look at Mother Lu. Xiaoman and I are both busy. We don't have time to entertain you. If you don't want your father and I, then you should at least want our son, right? Mother Lu pulled out a photo of the little baby from her bag and placed it on the glass table. You were the one who agreed to this child. Now that the child has been born and needs fatherly love, you should at least take some time to visit him. We agreed that as soon as this child was born, you wouldn't interfere with my life anymore. What about now? Lu Che asked. Plus, I don't have a son, I only have a daughter. I really don't understand what you were thinking. Why did you abandon your perfectly fine son and insist on keeping your nemesis? Mother Lu yelled as she put away the photo. This child is almost 100 days old. When that time comes, I hope you can attend a banquet so your son can live openly in the Lu family. Lu Che did not say a word. He simply pointed to the door and gestured for Mother Lu to leave. No one welcomed her. Don't come looking for me again. Keep your promise. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do. Before Mother Lu left, Lu Che whispered in her ear earnestly. However, Mother Lu did not seem to be bothered by his words. When you see your son, you'll know how cute he is. This time, Lu Che did not hold back as he yelled at Mother Lu, Get lost! Because at this moment, as a husband, all he wanted was to protect his wife. 100 days old banquet? He was indeed going to attend, but not to see his son. He was going to slap her in the face. As his mother, Mama Lu had done more than enough. Chapter 1042. What's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with my daughter? In the end, she's also a woman. She's been too greedy. We agreed that she wouldn't interfere with our lives anymore, but now... Lu Che held on a Long Jie's shoulder and smiled. Didn't we also break our promise? But this matter will be resolved sooner or later. Don't worry. Lu Che patted Long Jia on the head and pulled her into his embrace. I will never be foolishly filial. Trust me. On the day of the 100-day celebration, you should dress up properly. I'm going to take you with me. Thinking about the child, Long Jia pulled out her medical report from her bag. You're actually going to be a father again. Lu Che was a little surprised as he looked at Long Jia in surprise. Are you saying? I'm saying I'm pregnant again. After hearing this, Lu Che immediately carried Long Jia in his arms. He was just as excited as he was when it was his first time. Hurry and put me down. Lu Che did not comply. Instead, he placed Long Jia on the bed in the bedroom. This will make the show even more interesting. The mother that wanted to dominate her son ended up going against the son that wasn't willing to listen to her. Now it was time to see who won. Han Xiuqia had been arguing with Tongning's fans for a few days now, but he realized that Tongning had no intention of responding. She wasn't afraid of being slandered, she wasn't afraid of fighting, and she wasn't afraid of him and Ma Weiwei using superstar media to threaten her. So, Han Xiuqia felt like all his punches were landing on cotton. He was extremely frustrated. Han Xiuqia's brother lifted his head from his busy work and laughed. Let's not talk about anything else for now. Tongning has already been married for a few years. Even if she's worthy of your love, there's no way you're going to be with her. Why can't you get over it? Brother, you don't understand. When everyone thinks this woman is kind and righteous, and you're the only one that knows she's dirty, you want to expose her true colors to the world. Aren't you tired of living such a fake life? But you're not going to hurt her by running around like a headless fly. Han Xiuqia's brother laughed. Right now, you can't do anything to her. Plus, what about your future? You don't want it anymore? Brother, you know me. If I don't tear off this woman's mask, I will never be satisfied. After hearing this, Han Xiuqia's brother nodded his head. Okay then, in order to help you return to normal, I have no choice but to compromise. If you want to find out more about Tongning and see if there are any channels, you can try sneaking into her fan club. Usually, the official fan groups are the first to receive news about her. After hearing his brother's reminder, Han Xiuqia immediately stood up from the sofa. He had a new idea. However, he was born with the protection of his older brother, so he could do whatever he wanted. But Ma Weiwei was not so lucky. After being continuously humiliated, Ma Weiwei was left with no choice but to remain in the second and third tier. With Tongning suppressing her from above, there was no way she could make it to the first tier. But any company with a brain would know the difference between the two. Since they couldn't ask Tongning for help, they might as well choose someone else. There was no need to choose a fake Ma Weiwei. Ma Weiwei's current situation was extremely awkward. She was in an awkward situation. Her agency tried to come up with a lot of ideas, but none of them were effective. This was the side effect of leeching off Tongning's popularity. When there was gain, there was loss. If they clung onto Tongning's coattails, they would eventually suffer a backlash. This was the price that Ma Weiwei had to pay. Because of Ma Weiwei's recent behavior, her agency started to look down on her. After all, they already knew that Ma Weiwei wouldn't be able to make it far. But they never expected that it would be so short. Tongning didn't need to waste a single soldier to destroy these fake Ma Weiwei's fake Ma Weiwei. So, she completely ignored the short-lived Ma Weiwei, no matter how hard she tried to frame her. Ma Weiwei's current situation has reached its limit. She has already lost the chance to make it to the first tier. So, to make up for her losses, you need to introduce Ma Weiwei to some of the big shots in the industry. Do you understand what I'm saying? After hearing from her boss, Ma Weiwei's manager nodded her head. I understand. I'm glad you understand. Ma Weiwei's manager had already told her that Ma Weiwei might appear naive and innocent, but she was actually very scheming. The other reason why she was giving up on Ma Weiwei was because Tongning had evidence of Ma Weiwei and Han Xiuqia's meeting. This ticking time bomb could explode at any moment, so she needed to get out of the situation as soon as possible. Ma Weiwei had no idea that her agency had already given up on her. She was still hoping that she could continue living peacefully in the agency. As a result, the way her manager looked at her now had a trace of sympathy in her eyes. In fact, She even felt like a saint as she tried to help Ma Weiwei find a way out. Since there's no point in keeping superstar media around, why don't you sell it while it's still popular? After hearing her manager's suggestion, Ma Weiwei thought carefully for a moment, but I don't have all of superstar media's shares in my hands. You simply need to sell what you have. While superstar media is still a topic of discussion, you might be able to gain another wave of popularity by selling superstar media. Ma Weiwei thought about her manager's suggestion and felt that it wasn't a bad idea. It's not a bad idea to get some money. After all, superstar media can't do much in my hands. Help me handle this matter and release the news. Let's see who's interested. Okay, the manager nodded. What else was there to buy from superstar media? Xinglan and Luo Sheng were both at Hai Rui. All that was left was Luo Inghong. But if it was any other company that went bankrupt, people might have scoffed at it. But this was a miracle created by Tongning. Just because it was created by Tongning, it still had its value. But just as the manager released the news, Han Xiuqia immediately gave Ma Weiwei a phone call. Have you gone crazy from thinking about money? What else am I supposed to do if I keep it? It's not like I know how to run it. Besides, Han Xiuqia, you've already given it to me. You have no right to interfere with how superstar media is handled. Are you out of your mind? If you sell superstar media, you won't even have the slightest chance of holding on to Tongning. I can't even survive right now. Why would I care if I can hold on to Tongning? After saying this, Ma Weiwei hung up the phone angrily. I'm going to sell it. Of course, as soon as she did, she became a joke that would destroy her. Chapter 1043. Have you heard? Ma Weiwei is planning to sell the shares I gave to Han Xiuqia, Long Jie said, as soon as she heard the news. I agree to Hai Rui taking back superstar media. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for Ma Weiwei to continue causing trouble like this. I don't want our hard work to be wasted by her. Our hard work hasn't been wasted, Tongning replied. Don't forget the status that Xinglan and Luo Sheng currently have. Plus, Han Jie doesn't need any backing. They are both hard-working people. That's what superstar media used to be. Superstar media exists because of them. Since it's now an empty shell, it no longer has any value. Do you understand? Long Jie. But since Ma Weiwei wants to make things so ugly, let's make things even uglier for her. Has anyone made a bid yet? I heard that a few big agencies are currently in contact with Ma Weiwei. They're interested in continuing superstar media's business of finding artists. Long Jie replied. What are your plans? My plan is to wait until Ma Weiwei's done negotiating with her. In fact, after receiving the money, I'll ask Mo Ting to take back superstar media, Tongning said as she prepared dinner in the kitchen. Ha! Wouldn't she become a laughingstock then? Long Jie was overjoyed at the thought of that. Isn't that what she should do? Tongning asked. Your black-bellied nature hasn't changed at all. Long Jie laughed before she suddenly remembered something important. After Long Jie finished laughing, she suddenly remembered something important. In a few nights, Lu Che and I will need to take some time off. We have some private matters to deal with. Just let me know where you're going. You don't need to ask for a special leave. Tongning agreed quickly. As Long Jie had never told anyone about her family situation, Tongning had no idea that Long Jie was currently in such a difficult situation. But the reason she was taking time off was to attend Lu Che's other son's 100-day celebration. Now that she thought about it, it was quite ironic. After Han Xiuqia received some pointers from his brother, he put in a lot of effort into Tongning's fan club. After all, the official fan club had strict management. If he wanted to sneak in, he had to pass the test of the fans. Although Mo Ting despised Ma Weiwei for selling superstar media, if he thought about it from another perspective, perhaps Ma Weiwei could use superstar media to distract Tongning and the fans and give him a chance to blend in with the fans. Hopefully, that trash can still be of some use. So, news of Ma Weiwei selling superstar media was originally only spread amongst a small circle of people. After all, ever since Tongning's return, Ma Weiwei had experienced the consequences and didn't dare to offend her again. But Han Xiuqia ended up spreading the news. This was a company that Tongning had single-handedly built. Now that rumors were spreading that Ma Weiwei was going to sell it, the people in the industry couldn't help but feel sad. It used to be such a good card, but now it has been played like this. Sigh. The rise and fall of superstars has set a precedent for the industry. As for Tangning's fans, they were naturally furious. That bitch Ma Weiwei, don't you dare sully my Ning's heart's blood. By the way, why didn't Ning take back Superstar Media? Back then, Han Xiuqi used illegal methods to get his hands on Superstar Media, but it ended up being taken over by two bitches. It's already bad enough that he didn't develop it, but now he has no choice but to sell it. What a piece of trash. I really miss the days when my Ning was at Superstar Media. Back then, she helped Xinglan and Luo Sheng become the superstars and empresses they are today. But now, she's going to be sold off by a fake. I'm so angry that I'm crying. Tangning did not respond to the public's comments. She was well aware of her position. Every time she stepped down from an identity, she would never turn back. Superstar Media was indeed a pity, but Tangning knew that if she wanted to change the industry, she couldn't do it on her own. In the past, she was too naive. My Ning, please say something. Even one word is enough. Seeing the fans racking their brains, Long Jie decided to pass on their wishes to Tangning. You should comfort them a little. Don't make them too sad. After careful consideration, Tangning finally agreed. So, she used Mo Ting's social media account and posted a message. I stole Mr. Mo's password today and heard about Superstar Media. I'm sure Superstar Media will find a better home. Fans, don't worry. Tangning's response was indifferent and even a little cold. After all, she didn't respond for Superstar Media. She simply didn't want her fans to be sad. After the fans saw the message, they were moved by Tangning's response. At least, they knew that Tangning had been paying attention to the matter and wasn't indifferent. Of course, she couldn't appear too sad or passionate because Superstar Media was currently in Ma Weiwei's hands. Ma Weiwei had her own status and pride. Trust her, I trust her too. Hayes, although I want to trust her, my Ning hasn't done anything yet. It wasn't that Tangning hadn't done anything yet, but when had she ever revealed her actions to the public? Is she going to sit back and watch as Superstar Media is sold off? I'm dying of impatience. My Ning, hurry and retaliate. Tangning's fans were anxious. After all, they felt that the company that Tangning had single-handedly built was being sold off by an imitation. This was an insult to Tangning. Of course, as Ma Weiwei, she was a little excited when she saw this scene. After all, she was satisfied that she could surpass Tangning in some way. News of the matter spread like wildfire and caused a lot of commotion. During this time, a few companies actually tried to acquire Superstar Media and try to use Tangning's method of finding artists again. After all, it wasn't easy to build a reputation like this. Although they didn't think that they had Tangning's ability, it was still a project that was worth investing in. I can't believe someone offered $12 million for a lousy company like this. Ma Weiwei looked at the companies that were throwing themselves at her and couldn't help but mock. I can't tell how it's worth it. But this is a good thing for me. In that case, who do you plan to sell it to? Her manager asked. Let me have a look first. I prefer Boy Media because they have a strong foundation. They may be of help to me in the future. From the looks of it, this is indeed the most reliable option. The manager looked at the information in her hands and nodded her head. Okay, it's decided then. I'll sell my shares as soon as possible. I don't want to have anything to do with that woman anymore. What about Han Xiuqi? Aren't you going to? Ma Weiwei's manager was implying that Han Xiuqi had given Superstar Media to her for free. Shouldn't Ma Weiwei do something about it? He did it willingly. What does it have to do with me? Ma Weiwei mocked. It has nothing to do with him. Chapter 1044. Even if Ma Weiwei wanted to give it to him, with Han Xiuqi's current net worth, he couldn't care less about a few million. What he wanted was to tear apart Tangning's fake face. So, Ma Weiwei's sale of Superstar Media went smoothly. Meanwhile, Hira A also received news that Lu Che was in Mo Ting's office reporting to him. I received accurate information that Boyi has already drafted a contract and is preparing to hold a signing ceremony this afternoon. So, Mo Ting looked at Hai Rui's newest bodyguard and glanced at Lu Che. Do you need me to teach you something like this? Bring your lawyer there later and make sure you handle things quickly. I still have other things to deal with later, so don't waste too much time on unimportant things. Yes, President. Luce immediately did as he was told. The signing ceremony was to take place at 2 p.m. inside a five-star hotel. After hearing about this news, Tongning's fan club was in an uproar. After all, Tongning had yet to respond. Was she really going to watch as Superstar Media was sold? Is Ning going to get involved in this matter or not? I'm so anxious. I'm not going to look at the group chat anymore. I'm going to go to sleep. I really have to give it to that slut Ma Weiwei. Normally, fan clubs like this were only open to fans with experience. They had to be loyal fans and couldn't climb over the walls. Plus, they had to be able to help the fan club grow. They either had the ability to organize or they were generous with money. But at this time, no one had any idea that a fan called Rather Be Safe and Sound had already sold her account to someone. After all, no matter how much she chased after a celebrity, it was simply a form of spiritual sustenance. Yet, someone was willing to spend hundreds of thousands or even millions to buy her account. Wasn't that like a pie falling from the sky? Above all, for a fan from an ordinary family, this was like a huge sum of money falling from the sky. In reality, before Han Xiucha bought this account, he had put in a lot of effort to find out more about her. After all, only people with weaknesses would fall for his tricks. On the other hand, he had spent a lot of time and effort to locate this person's fan and buy the number from her. But after logging into the official chat groups, Han Xiucha realized that even Tongning's fans had no idea what she was up to. In fact, they had no idea if she still cared about Superstar Media. This hypocritical woman doesn't even care about her fans. She has no idea how stupid they are. Han Xiucha laughed. I can't believe there are people that are willing to sacrifice their lives for her. What a scumbag. Either way, because of Ma Weiwei's betrayal of Superstar Media, he had successfully entered Tongning's fan club. From the looks of it, there wasn't much behind the scenes that he could see. All he could do was keep an eye on Tongning for now. Sooner or later, he would find something to use against Tongning. To Ma Weiwei, she was about to receive $12 million. This was equivalent to having half a year's worth of savings. Right now, Tongning's fans are trembling in anger. It seems what you've done has really triggered them. I can't even take care of myself, so why would I care about them? Ma Weiwei coldly harumphed. Meanwhile, Ma Weiwei was waiting to sign the contract at the hotel. She sat in a corner of the waiting room and lit a cigarette. However, her manager quickly put out, "You should be careful. A place like this isn't necessarily safe." Ma Weiwei obediently put out her cigarette and looked at her watch. It's about time. Let's go meet up with President Wan. The manager nodded her head and followed behind Ma Weiwei. But she was still confused. Tongning clearly had evidence of Ma Weiwei and Han Xiucha's meeting, so why didn't she release it? According to Tongning's intelligence, she couldn't possibly ignore this matter. So, why didn't she make an appearance when Superstar Media was betrayed? This didn't make sense. So, the manager prepared herself and wasn't as excited as Ma Weiwei. After all, she wasn't the one that received the money. Soon, both parties arrived at the signing ceremony. It seemed Boyi wanted to announce to the world that they had already purchased Superstar Media, so they invited a lot of reporters to witness the ceremony. Both parties had contracts in front of them and, of course, pins with feathers on them. As long as they signed the contract, everything would be in place. Everyone that followed Superstar Media closely watched the signing ceremony. After all, it wasn't long before Superstar Media changed owners again. This was something that everyone felt regretful about. It wasn't easy for Tongning to build up Superstar Media's reputation. Who would have thought it would be destroyed like this? I really want to set the signing ceremony on fire. Damn, I'm signing it. I'm signing it. It's over. Everything is over. Even if Tongning wants to interfere, there's nothing she can do. Through the screens, the fans watched as Ma Weiwei and President Wan exchanged the contract and signed their names. It was like the dust had settled. On the screen, Ma Weiwei's smile was exceptionally bright. President Wang, it was a pleasure working with you. Yes, Weiwei, it was a pleasure working with you. But, just as the reporters were wondering why Tongning didn't cause a scene, Luce suddenly appeared on the red carpet with a team of lawyers dressed in suits and leather shoes. They were all standing in front of everyone. Luce, Assistant Lou, you're late. You've already signed a contract. I'm sorry for not coming out to welcome you, Assistant Lou, but everything is over. Out of politeness, President One immediately stepped forward and shook Luce's hand. Meanwhile, Ma Weiwei looked at Luce with a pleased expression. But as Luce shook the woman's hand, he said in a regretful tone, I'm sorry, your contract is illegal. That, President One looked at Luce confusedly. But we've already verified that Miss Ma Weiwei indeed has the most shares in Superstar Media. This can't be fake. It's true that she does have shares in Superstar Media. But I'm sure you don't understand the terms between Superstar Media and Hai Rui, Luce laughed. He then turned around and asked for some information from the lawyers. The contract between Hai Rui and Superstar Media states that, as an artist of Hai Rui, the only reason she was allowed to set up her own company was because of certain conditions. President One was a little surprised. He quickly looked at the information and scanned it. Assistant Lou, I don't understand. Why can't the shares that I bought be mine? Look carefully. Hai Rui's contract clearly states that if Superstar Media doesn't perform well within 6 months and doesn't send any artist to Hai Rui has the right to take back Superstar Media. No matter how your shares are traded, Hai Rui has the final say on Superstar Media's survival. And after the unanimous decision of Hai Rui's board of directors, we have decided to take back Superstar Media. So, President Wan, I'm sorry, but your contract is invalid. Chapter 1045. No, even if what you're saying is true, why did Hai Rui only reveal themselves after we signed the contract? Is Hai Rui messing with us? President Wan said angrily. To everyone's surprise, Luce smiled. President Wan, please be reasonable. Hai Rui is very busy and we have our own procedures. So, it's not surprising that we waited until now to reveal ourselves. Plus, Superstar Media belongs to Hai Rui. Ever since the madam was still around, artists have been sent directly to Hai Rui. Isn't this enough to explain the situation? Most importantly, Superstar Media belongs to us. We can take it back whenever we want. What's wrong? Why do we have to choose an auspicious date? Luce's words were like a slap to the face. After hearing this, President Wang's face turned red. He felt like he had been played like a monkey. With all due respect, President Wang, I think Miss Ma should take the blame for betraying Superstar Media. After all, she holds the most shares in Superstar Media. Doesn't she know about the relationship between Hai Rui and Superstar Media? So, if you have a temper, you can ask Miss Ma if she knew anything about this. After saying this, Luce turned around and said to his team of lawyers, deal with this matter quickly. Later, report back to Hai Rui. In other words, the contract in Ma Weiwei's and President Wan's hands was nothing more than a piece of scrap paper. Of course, Luce deliberately misled President Wan. So, at this moment, President Wan looked at Ma Weiwei with a complicated expression. Miss Ma, can you explain this to me? President Wan, don't listen to Luce's nonsense. I really didn't know about the relationship between Superstar Media and Hai Rui. Otherwise, why would I have sold my shares? Ma Weiwei quickly explained. You need to trust me. You've already accepted the money. You should just wait for my lawyer's letter. President Wan didn't want to have anything to do with Ma Weiwei, so he turned and left. Although the media surrounded them, Ma Weiwei was the only one that was blocked. As soon as her manager saw this, she simply said, shit. Just like that, the situation took a turn for the worse. They originally thought that since Ma Weiwei had already signed the contract, there was no turning back. But who would have thought that Ma Weiwei still had a trick up her sleeve? Hai Rui was obviously doing this on purpose. They were monitoring Ma Weiwei's condition and waiting for her to sign the contract to slap their faces and take back Superstar Media. Ma Weiwei, explain yourself. Did you know anything about the relationship between Hai Rui and Superstar Media? Ma Weiwei, do you have anything to say about Hai Rui's display of strength today? Even the reporters could tell that Hai Rui was trying to intimidate her. All Ma Weiwei wanted to do was find a place to hide and not embarrass herself like this. However, being surrounded by reporters and even pushed to the ground, she did not deserve the sympathy of others. Damn, I'm sweating profusely. Like I said, how could my Ning remain indifferent to such a matter? Even after signing a contract, they managed to turn the situation around. I have to hand it to them. Hai Rui's actions are amazing. Although it seems like they are bullying a small artist, I still want to say that they did a good job. Whether it was Mo Ting's or Tong Ning's intentions, it was obvious that the two men were on the same page. If Hai Rui stepped forward, it meant that Tong Ning stepped forward. No, if Hai Rui stepped forward, it meant that Ma Weiwei was slapped in the face. Just look at the team of lawyers that Lu Che brought with him. Ma Weiwei had been greatly humiliated. Not only her, even Han Xiuqi's illegal acquisition of Superstar Media shares was dug up and reignited since the matter involved Han Xiuqi. Han Xiuqi, of course, had to step onto the stage and claim that he was the victim. I've already explained it many times. I'm not familiar with Ma Weiwei, and I only approached her because I wanted to use her popularity. Han Xiuqi, has your logic been eaten by a dog? You're simply talking to yourself. Firstly, why did Long Jie give up on Superstar Media and transfer her shares to you? Because of a few idolizing artists. Long Jie also mentioned that you used those artists to threaten her, so she transferred her shares to you. This is the only logical explanation, that she gave you her shares for free because she was threatened. Secondly, you claim that you're not familiar with Ma Weiwei and that you didn't collude with her. Then, you transferred your shares to her because you wanted to ride on her popularity and benefit yourself. But we all know that after you transferred Superstar Media to Ma Weiwei, you didn't manage it at all. In fact, you didn't even promote yourself. What does this mean? You didn't do it for fame and fortune. This is called logic slapping people in the face. I'm sure that, with our analysis, everyone will be able to find a loophole. But should we trust the incoherent you? Or should we trust Long Jie and Tong Ning? Lastly, let me say one last thing. Whenever something happens to Ma Weiwei, she tries to create hype because of Tong Ning. But it's not hard for a normal person to see that. Apart from annoying Tong Ning, Ma Weiwei doesn't pose any threat to her. So, why would she lower herself to deal with a fake? Not to mention, Ma Weiwei has 3 children and a husband. Han Xiuqi, if you can't find a way to cover up these loopholes, then you are lying. Faced with such a serious questioning from Tong Ning's fan, the entire fandom was shocked. This was the intelligence that a fan should have. She was able to argue, reason, and anger Han Xiuqi. I don't know why this fan is typing so many words. It's too long, and I don't want to read it. All I want to say is, if you're accusing me, you need to provide evidence. It seemed Han Xiuqi wanted to show everyone how shameless he was. He was the only person that could say something so disgusting. He's completely ignoring your normal questions. He's just acting shamelessly. What could they do to him? Unfortunately, the fans had no evidence. But just because the fans didn't have any evidence, it didn't mean that Tong Ning didn't. As for Ma Weiwei's manager, after seeing the news regarding Han Xiuqi, her instincts told her that she was done for and that she had to immediately abandon Ma Weiwei. After all, the answer to Han Xiuqi's argument with his fans was in Tong Ning's hands. In fact, the evidence was irrefutable. No wonder Tong Ning was able to maintain her composure. After all, she had evidence in her hands, so it was better to be prepared. She didn't even need to say a single word in response. Yet she was able to push Ma Weiwei and Han Xiuqi into a hopeless situation. No, Han Xiuqi didn't care about his future. Or, to put it another way, he was a cartoonist, not an artist. But Ma Weiwei was different. The manager waited in fear for Tong Ning's next counterattack. Chapter 1046. Originally, the agency wanted to give Ma Weiwei as many endorsements as they could. But as soon as Ma Weiwei's manager found out about the agency's decision, she urged them not to invest any more resources in her. Boss, although Weiwei is my artist, I am also the agency's manager. As long as there is a chance, I am willing to fight for it. But the current situation is that I would rather you give these resources to Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi is currently on the rise. With these resources, she will definitely be able to help her. She knew that, as soon as evidence was revealed, Ma Weiwei would have no choice but to go offline. Rather than that, she might as well start planning a way out. The agency CEO looked at the manager with a complicated expression. His eyes flashed with a sense of unfamiliarity, like he had never met this person before. But her words weren't unreasonable. Although she had no feelings for Ma Weiwei, she was indeed trying to help the agency recover from losses. Since she is your artist and you made the decision, then let's do it this way. However, Ma Weiwei had no idea that this matter would be exposed to her. Ma Weiwei had never imagined that her manager, who appeared to be so naive and innocent, was actually scheming against her behind her back. So, when her manager arrived at her home, she calmly sat on the sofa and suppressed the anger in her heart. She then turned to look at her manager and asked, "Fofu, let's go to Canada at the end of the year to see the Aurora Borealis, okay? I'll take you with me. After all, you've been taking care of me for so long." "Okay," the manager nodded. "We can head out when it's time to rest." "Fofu, I don't have any relatives by my side. I know that you've been taking care of me all this time." "What are you talking about?" "It's nothing. I simply feel that you treat me really well," Ma Weiwei said with a hidden meaning. Hearing this, the manager walked over to Ma Weiwei and sat down beside her. Her attitude was sincere and serious. "Isn't this what I should be doing? After all, I've always treated you like a sister." "Then, you've always treated me like a sister?" Ma Weiwei asked her manager with a smile. "Since you treat me like a sister, why would you give my resources to Xiaoxi?" The manager's smiling face instantly froze. "Since you treat me like a little sister, why did you tell boss to withdraw all his investment from me?" The manager was stunned. Then, she lowered her head and did not look at Ma Weiwei anymore. And because of her attitude, Ma Weiwei was completely infuriated. She stood up from the sofa. "I don't think I've ever mistreated you, have I? But why did you stab me in the back like this? Is it fun? Do you know that I really want to dig out your heart and see what color it is? I really didn't think about it. We spend every day together. I earn a lot of money for you. Why? You don't think highly of me." As Ma Weiwei's tears began to roll down her face, the manager stood up. However, she did not respond. Instead, she turned to leave, but Ma Weiwei grabbed onto her arm. "Why are you leaving? You want to leave just like that after messing with me? Fofu, is this how you trick your artist? Is this your professional ethics?" Ma Weiwei pushed the manager onto the sofa, causing her to fall onto the sofa. She then threw a slap across the manager's face, stunning her. The manager covered her face and looked at Ma Weiwei in shock. "How dare you hit me? Don't you want to stay in the industry anymore? With you around, how am I supposed to stay in the industry?" Ma Weiwei crossed her arms and humphed. "Did you think I shouldn't hit you? Ma Weiwei, don't forget who helped you get to where you are today. Then, don't forget who asked me to get plastic surgery. If you had plastic surgery, how could you become a B-lister? If you didn't, you wouldn't even have made it to the 18th list," the manager said angrily. "Plus, it's true that I have no professional ethics. But what about you? Do you have any self-awareness as an artist? To be honest, everyone knows that you had plastic surgery to look like Tongning to earn some quick money. But now, you no longer have any value because Tongning is back. That's why I simply told the CEO what he wanted. Did you think he actually cared about you? Don't be stupid. Ma Weiwei, everyone knows that you can't become Tongning, but you don't have any self-awareness and want to compete with her. Do you think you can compete with her? Did you really think that the things that you've done were all that noble? You're being suppressed by Tongning? You're simply trying to ride on her popularity. How dare you say that she's suppressing you? Please understand your position. Tongning doesn't owe you anything, but you owe her a lot of money for bringing you on stage. After all, we've already fallen out today. From now on, there's no longer a need for us to work together. The agency has already stated that they won't be taking care of you anymore. In other words, you've officially been frozen. If you're smart enough, you'll know how to live a stable life with money. If you continue to play any tricks, don't blame the agency for being ruthless." After speaking, the manager grabbed her bag and stormed out of Ma Weiwei's home. Meanwhile, Ma Weiwei's face turned red with anger, but she couldn't find any words to refute. She was trying to ride on Tongning's popularity, yet she was doing it. In fact, she was planning to continue doing it. So what if she made a fool of herself? She still had an ally, Han Xiucha. But Ma Weiwei had no idea why her manager had given up on her so completely. She was still thinking about her ally, Han Xiucha. But she had no idea that the worst time she had ever been betrayed by her manager was when she gave Tongning evidence. And the existence of this evidence was enough to send her and her ally, Han Xiucha, to hell. She's a complete idiot. Just wait for Tongning's counterattack. This was what Ma Weiwei's manager said as she left her home. Of course, Ma Weiwei couldn't hear it. Even if she did, she didn't think that Tongning would respond to Han Xiucha, even though she had been played around by Tongning during the incident with Superstar Media. But Han Xiucha had already been arguing with Tangning's fans for a few days now, yet Tongning still hadn't stepped out to speak up for her fans. Of course, with Superstar Media's experience, no one was going to come to a conclusion so easily. After all, what if Tongning ended up slapping people in the face like she did with Superstar Media? After all, Tongning was currently living her life in a carefree manner. Whenever she came across someone that wanted to cause trouble, all she had to do was throw a slap across the face, and the enemy would no longer have the strength to move. Who wouldn't accept this? Chapter 1047. On the other hand, Ma Weiwei practically had nothing to show for herself. But this made her even more dissatisfied. After all, her manager thought that she wasn't as good as the other artists in the agency. She was determined to teach her manager a lesson. But who else could she rely on? Han Xiucha was the only one she could rely on. So, Han Xiucha continued to say that he wasn't familiar with Ma Weiwei while hiding her at home. Speaking of which, nothing improper happened between the two because Han Xiucha had no interest in Ma Weiwei. But the atmosphere between the two seemed a little strange. I really admire you. I'm already at your home, yet you can still argue with Tongning's fans. You sure have a strong mentality. Han Xiucha sat in front of his computer with a glass of red wine in his hand and a devilish smile on his face. He then put down his wine glass and pointed to his head with his index finger. What do you think arguments in the entertainment industry rely on these days? I know. It's shamelessness. As long as one's skin is thick enough, they are invincible, Ma Weiwei replied as she laid down on the sofa. Lying on the sofa, Ma Weiwei supported her head with her hand and replied, "But what if I'm photographed with you? We're already familiar with each other. So what if they take a photo?" To put it simply, Han Xiucha was selectively blind to everything. He only acknowledged what he was interested in. As for everything else, even if it was a rock, he would still ignore it. Now that I think about it, Tongning sure is scheming. She could have taken back Superstar Media from the start, but to embarrass me, she set up a trap for me to jump down. I'm now a laughing stock in everyone's eyes. Who told you to be stupid? Han Xiucha asked. Ma Weiwei pursed her lips, speechless. You're calling me stupid? You should answer the netizens' questions first. I've already told them to bring out evidence first. Plus, I'm going to create another rumor today. After speaking, Han Xiucha returned his focus to his computer. Ma Weiwei laughed. She didn't know where Han Xiucha got his energy from and why he had such a deep grudge against Tongning. If you need anything, just let me know. Han Xiucha completely ignored Ma Weiwei because he was once again firing at Tongning online. Superstar Media could have taken back the company a long time ago, yet you insisted on framing a newcomer. Tongning, how scheming are you? Faced with Han Xiucha's provocation, Long Jie was furious. Does this jerk think we can't deal with him? That's probably how he feels. But Superstar Media has already been taken back, so all he can do is bark a little. That's right, Tongning said as she looked at the phone Long Jie handed her. Don't tell me we don't plan to deal with him now? Of course, but didn't you notice that he selectively ignored these loopholes? This man has a strong mentality and is not afraid of anything. Naturally, he will say whatever he wants. So, even if we need to show him evidence, we need to leave a deep impression on him. What should I do? Long Jie asked. Tongning hooked her finger at Long Jie. After she got closer, she leaned over and whispered something in her ear. After hearing this, Long Jie's eyes lit up. After all, she and Han Xiuqia already had a grudge against each other. So, how could she not be happy that she was about to retaliate? What are you waiting for? These two bitches should have been kicked out a long time ago. The main point of contention between Han Xiuqia and the Tang fans was over Superstar Media's acquisition. Han Xiuqia, Long Jie, and Tongning each had their own version of events. Although Han Xiuqia's words were completely reversed, Tongning and Long Jie didn't respond in time. So, even after a long time, they still couldn't produce any concrete evidence, especially when it came to Han Xiuqia and Ma Weiwei's relationship. Han Xiuqia insisted that he didn't collude with Ma Weiwei and that he wasn't close with her, because Han Xiuqia didn't have any evidence. Every time he was questioned, he would clamor for them to produce evidence. Evidence! Everyone assumed that Tongning had already taken back Superstar Media, yet she still hadn't responded to Han Xiuqia's accusation. But just as Han Xiuqia was about to ask the Tang fans to produce evidence, the real Long Jie replied, "Did you really think that we don't have any evidence?" At that time, Ma Weiwei was sitting beside Han Xiuqia. As soon as she saw this, she sat up guiltily and asked, "Does Tongning really have evidence?" "It's obvious that Tongning is playing a smokescreen to force me to back off," Han Xiuqia replied confidently. Otherwise, according to Tongning, she would have shown us the evidence a long time ago. Plus, when we first met, we were so secretive that no one could have known. That's true. So, let's continue wasting time with her. After speaking, Han Xiuqia left a comment online. "If you can produce evidence to prove that I, Ma Weiwei, have something to do with it, I will kneel down and apologize to Tongning." "Hey, don't make such a big bet. Do you think I'm afraid?" Han Xiuqia humphed. Ma Weiwei couldn't stop this stubborn man. All she could do was watch as the post went viral. Everyone saw it. Han Xiuqia said that if we can produce evidence, he will kneel down and apologize to Tongning. Long Jie replied, "What if Han Xiuqia goes back on his word? If he does, I'll end my family line." At this time, Long Jie was at a plastic surgery hospital. She had already done a thorough investigation on Ma Weiwei. Since Han Xiuqia was going to die, she naturally had to follow suit. Leeching off someone else's face, leeching off someone else's popularity, the person who deserved to be beaten up the most was Ma Weiwei. Han Xiuqia was only annoying on the surface, but Ma Weiwei was truly disgusting. To make the show even more exciting, Long Jie deliberately hyped up the bet between her and Han Xiuqia so more people could participate. In other words, she wanted Han Xiuqia to have a deep impression of her. But because Long Jie refused to release any evidence, Han Xiuqia assumed that she had nothing to show and was simply playing with him. Meanwhile, the onlookers also urged Long Jie to quickly produce evidence to end the war of words, especially Tongning's fans. They were completely disgusted by Han Xiuqia. "Long Jie, I beg of you, stop holding back. If you have any evidence, hurry and show it to us. We are about to vomit from Han Xiuqia. He's a jerk to begin with, yet he refuses to admit that he's a jerk. I want evidence to slap his face. Could it be that Long Jie doesn't have any evidence? I'm about to lose my temper." Chapter 1048. Because of Long Jie's tortoise-like speed, Han Xiuqia was even more certain that Tongning couldn't produce any evidence. So, with the help of this incident, he could continue scolding Tongning for a long time. Even if the entire internet called him a jerk, so what? In reality, Han Xiuqia didn't feel any shame that a normal person would have. In fact, deep down, he was actually a little happy because of this incident. Why was this the case? Everyone knew that only a child that lacked love from a young age would crave for attention. Whether it was good or bad, as long as someone placed their attention on him, then he would be considered a success. "Look, everyone's looking at me." This was the difference between a person that lacked love and a normal person. Long Jie's tortoise-like speed wasn't just because she wanted to get her hands on Ma Weiwei's information. More importantly, She wanted to whet the public's appetite to the highest point. What was the highest point? It was when everyone was about to lose their patience. Long Jie has learned to trick people. If you don't have any evidence, then don't waste our time. Students study hard every day, okay? We can't afford to hurt them. It seems we've rejoiced for nothing. I thought we could shut that piece of trash Han Xiuqi's mouth. Seeing his fans giving up on themselves, Han Xiuqi felt proud. I told you a long time ago, your idol Tongning has never cared about you. Evidence? Long Jie, you need to take legal responsibility for slandering me for obtaining superstar media through illegal means. That afternoon, Long Jie crawled like a tortoise as she rushed online. Soon, she appeared on her social media page, sorry for making everyone wait. Evidence? Where's the evidence we want? Long Jie, hurry and show us the evidence. In an instant, the public was filled with people asking for evidence. After all, a lot of people didn't like Han Xiuqi, but he was too thick-skinned to admit to anything and didn't care. So, the only thing that could slap him in the face was evidence. Hee, everyone is getting impatient. Hurry up and show us the evidence. Meanwhile, Han Xiuqi and Ma Weiwei were at home looking at Long Jie's social media page. Did she really have evidence? That was impossible. However, Long Jie did not respond. Instead, she released a series of videos and placed them on the homepage for everyone to see. Looking at the time, it's obvious that Han Xiuqi just signed with Superstar Media. Look, these two bitches are having a rendezvous at night. They've even been photographed, and they're still shamelessly saying that they're not familiar with each other. Han Xiuqi, Ma Weiwei, you two bitches, look carefully. Isn't this a stone hammer? Is it evidence? Don't tell me it's not you two bitches in the video. After seeing the video that Long Jie posted, Han Xiuqi immediately jumped up from the sofa. At this time, Ma Weiwei suddenly remembered something. Apart from the two of us, the only people that know about our meeting are our managers. Plus, I just had a falling out with my manager. Han Xiuqi glared at Ma Weiwei. At this moment, he was speechless. Wasn't this the so-called pig-headed teammate? You can't blame it all on me, right? Don't you remember it yourself? I never expected Tongning to be so ruthless. Of course, Han Xiuqi wouldn't blame himself. So who was to blame? He could only blame Tongning for being too despicable. Afterwards, Long Jie explained, the video was obtained from an interview, so I'm sure it's enough to explain a few things. As for Han Xiuqi, his words didn't match up and he lied to the public. This is an indisputable fact. I'm sure everyone is well aware of how Superstar Media ended up in your hands. Since Superstar Media has already returned to Hai Rui, I will no longer pursue the matter. But, Han Xiuqi, everything that you and Ma Weiwei have done and slandered Tongning, you'll have to pay the price. You keep saying things and throwing all kinds of dirty water at Tongning. From today onwards, that will be the end of it. If you still want to fight, Hai Rui's team will be waiting for you. Don't forget, you personally promised that if we could provide you with evidence, you would kneel down and apologize to Tongning. I wonder if that bet still stands. Long Jie no longer planned to pursue the matter with Superstar Media. Everything had already gone with the wind. Now, the most important thing was to make sure the two bitches received the punishment they deserved. Because the matter was blown out of proportion and Han Xiuqi personally said that he would kneel down and apologize, it was now the hottest topic online. Now, Tongning and Long Jie were no longer the only ones that were on the receiving end. Because of this, the fans were extremely satisfied. That scared me. I almost thought that Long Jie didn't have any evidence. It was all a false alarm. I'm impressed. Tongning always keeps us in suspense when she puts out evidence. But I'm going to cheer you on like crazy. That crazy Han must be dumbfounded. He never expected that Tongning would actually have evidence of the two bitches meeting. I'm so satisfied that I can eat 2 more bowls of rice tonight. I'm satisfied, time to go offline. Seeing the netizens begging for Han Xiuqi to kneel down and apologize, Ma Weiwei looked at him awkwardly. Don't tell me, Han Xiuqi scoffed. But you said it yourself. If you go back on your word, Ma Weiwei was implying that if Han Xiuqi went back on his word, things would get ugly. You should take care of yourself. Han Xiuqia brushed Ma Weiwei off half-heartedly because he hadn't thought of a solution yet. He was indeed the one who said those words. If he didn't do as he was told, he wouldn't have the confidence to cause trouble for her in the future. But kneeling and apologizing to the woman he hated, Ma Weiwei knew that Han Xiuqia was in a dilemma. He was too confident, so confident that he had no idea this was a trap set up by Tongning and Long Jie. Push the matter to the cusp of the storm, and then deliver a fatal blow. No, this wasn't even a fatal blow, because there was a follow-up. Ma Weiwei didn't think that Long Jie would let her off so easily, did she? After Han Xiuqia's brother saw the drama online, he immediately gave his brother a phone call. Do you want me to step out and help you with PR? No need. Whether you admit to your mistake or not, your image is already collapsed in everyone's hearts. Why waste your energy on it? Han Xiuqia's brother asked as he raised an eyebrow. Leave it to me. I'll settle it for you. Han Xiuqia sat on the sofa and looked at the excitement in Tongning's fan club. He knew he couldn't let Tongning get away with it, so in the end, he did not insist. Meanwhile, Han Xiuqia's brother personally recorded a video of the incident and apologized on behalf of his immature brother, taking the blame. Chapter 1049. If Han Xiuqia was dealing with another agency, he might have been able to resolve the matter with a little bit of sincerity. But he obviously couldn't because he was dealing with Tongning. Seeing how Han Xiuqia dealt with the matter, the netizens began to mock him even more. They also expressed that they couldn't accept Han Xiuqia's cowardly actions. He's not a man at all. I've never seen a man that's not a man. At this time, Long Jie directly asked, why don't President Han kneel on Han Xiuqia's behalf? Originally, Han Xiuqia was unreasonable, but after the evidence was revealed, he completely disappeared from the internet. Of course, it wasn't impossible for him to disappear. As long as he appeared again, Long Jie would definitely point to the past. No matter what he did, Long Jie would simply reward him with one sentence. Did you kneel down and apologize? Plus, even if he appeared again, no one would believe him. Han Xiuqia had simply disappeared into thin air. He didn't apologize, he didn't say a word, and he even let his brother take the blame. This was the type of man that women hated the most. Perhaps, even Han Xiuqia never imagined that he would be so despicable because he was afraid of admitting to his mistakes. At this moment, all he had in his sights was Tongning's fan club. Regardless of whether Han Xiuqia responded or not, the jerk was now like a rat on the street. But what about Ma Weiwei? In this matter, she didn't seem to be as outstanding as Han Xiuqia. But didn't the fact that she once rode on the popularity and used it to create posters mean that she didn't care? Of course, that wasn't possible. It was simply because Tongning hadn't settled the score yet, so Ma Weiwei thought that Tongning would let her off. But in reality, Tongning always pulled out the weeds from the roots. After all, when Ma Weiwei used her, she never held back. Ma Weiwei's fire simply hadn't been ignited yet. But before Long Jie attended Lu Chei's son's 100-day celebration, she was bound to release the news. Did Ma Weiwei think that she was lucky? In reality, her misfortune had only just begun. Plus, Long Jie's status was much higher than Han Xiuqia's. Not to mention, Long Jie had Tongning backing her up. Before leaving for the party, Long Jie gave Tongning a phone call. Everything has been pretty much taken care of. All you need to do is wait and watch the show. You and Lu Chei can rest assured. Don't tell me I can't do without you. In reality, Lin Xian was currently at Hyatt Regency. She had just received compensation from Hai Rui, but she did not accept it. If Superstar Media has taken it back, then so be it. Why must I be so polite? It's not because I'm being polite. Have you forgotten? These shares are the dowry I'll give you when you get married. Let's not talk about anything else, but I will definitely settle this with you, Tongning replied. After hearing this, Lin Xian understood this was Tongning's sincerity, so she did not insist. It's only been a few days since I last saw you, and so many things have happened. That Ma Weiwei, shouldn't she also? Tongning gestured for Lin Xian to keep quiet and focus on the show. From Tong Ning's expression, Lin Xian could tell that Ma Weiwei's fate wasn't going to be simple. So, she was relieved. After all, Tong Ning couldn't be bullied by anyone, especially by those that leached off of her popularity and sucked her blood. Afterwards, Lin Xian and Tong Ning sat back and watched the show unfold. Ma Weiwei never imagined that photos of her before her plastic surgery would end up being leaked. Although she had done enough PR and controlled almost all of her pre-debut photos, she was still so scared that her hands trembled when she saw the photos. She indeed needs plastic surgery to become famous. No wonder she had plastic surgery to look like Tong Ning. Without plastic surgery, she's just a passerby. Ma Weiwei looks like this, yet she still wants to stay in the entertainment industry. I'm really impressed by her courage. Ma Weiwei's face has been restored to its original state. From now on, I won't feel disgusted whenever I look at her. After all, no matter how much she looks like Tong Ning, she still used a knife. Ugly people always cause trouble. What was the thing that a woman feared the most? It was having a lack of confidence in her own appearance, especially when she was being judged by others. Even the slightest bit of disdain could cause her confidence to completely collapse. So, when Ma Weiwei saw her original photos being circulated online, she lost the courage to leave the house just like Han Xiuqia. She was in an even more pitiful state than Han Xiuqia. Her real face had been posted online. So, how could she continue to leech off of Tong Ning's popularity? As a result, Long Jie successfully completed a double kill. Ma Weiwei and Han Xiuqia were eliminated. No, Ma Weiwei was indeed eliminated. As long as she had a little bit of pride left in her, she wouldn't cause trouble again. But Han Xiuqia, on the other hand, was still in Tong Ning's fan club. Tong Ning didn't like to report bad news. Sometimes, when she received good news, she would ask Long Jie to share it with everyone. She simply hoped that Han Xiuqia wouldn't find out that her new film had already been completed and was about to be released. For Ma Weiwei to get to where she was today, she must have realized her retribution. So, on social media, she simply said, "It turns out the entire world knows they're going to retaliate, but I'm still dreaming." When one thought about it, Ma Weiwei was quite pitiful. She was tricked by her agency into getting plastic surgery to earn some quick cash. Although she went overboard and offended Tong Ning, the agency still had to take responsibility from the beginning. After all, they had always walked a crooked path. Now that they were exposed, they kicked Ma Weiwei aside. It was quite ironic. So, the netizens did not make things difficult for Ma Weiwei. After all, everyone knew who leaked her photos. But Long Jie and Tong Ning never allowed the public to attack Ma Weiwei. Instead, they quietly exposed her. It was enough for her to learn a lesson. This was the last bit of mercy that the public, Long Jie, and Tong Ning could give. This woman, if you want to say how evil she is, she actually isn't. As an artist, it's normal for her to ride on others' popularity. It's just, this woman has walked a bit off the beaten path. From now on, I hope she lives a good life. As long as she doesn't come out, I won't slander her. She messed with everyone, but not Tong Ning. She asked for it, so she doesn't deserve any sympathy. The two jerks are finally gone. I suddenly feel like Beijing's sky has turned blue. I hope the two of them don't come out again. I'm serious. With their level, Tong Ning doesn't even want to show her face. Chapter 1050. After everything was settled, Long Jie dressed herself up at home. Apart from Lu Che, she had no one else to rely on at the Lu family home. But, so what if she had a wealthy family and a powerful background? Without her husband's love, all of this was useless and meaningless. So, all she needed was Lu Che, and that was enough. Standing in front of the mirror, Long Jie was dressed in a long black dress. Although she didn't have a perfect figure like Tong Ning, her presence was like that of a queen. After following Tong Ning for so many years, she had already become a rich woman. So, when it came to dressing up, she didn't treat herself too harshly. After all, when she was going out with Tong Ning, she had to match her status. After coaxing his daughter to sleep, Lu Che hugged Long Jie from behind. At this moment, he was dressed in his usual black suit and pants. there wasn't much difference. After all, he had been with Ting for so many years and had developed a professional habit. Is our daughter asleep? Yes. After we leave, our neighbor, Annie Chio, will come over and help us take care of her. Don't worry, Lu Che whispered into Long Jie's ear. In that case, I'm ready. Let's go. Wait, Lu Che said as he pulled out a box from his pocket and opened it in front of Long Jie. Inside was a neatly placed diamond ring in the shape of a crown. Long Jie was a little surprised. After being married for so long, I don't think I've bought you much. Lu Che removed the ring from the box and gently slid it onto Long Jie's finger. Tonight, you may hear a few rumors, but don't be afraid. I'm here. I've already prepared myself to face the Lu family. Do you think I'm a pushover? Long Jie replied. She knew that Lu Che had suffered the most from the beginning. He had been stuck between his wife and mother and had been forced to make all sorts of choices. Didn't her heart ache? Lu Che nodded his head, placed Long Jie's hand in the crook of his arm, and headed towards the battlefield. However, over the past few days, because of Long Jie's frequent appearances on the entertainment news, Mother Lu felt a little embarrassed in front of her friends and family. Although, from the beginning, she had tried her best to act like a lady from a wealthy family and did not look down on Long Jie's background and occupation. After all, her own son was also in the same industry. So, she tried her best to accept Long Jie as she didn't understand her and didn't interfere. But now that friends and family were discussing Long Jie in private, and she had always been biased against Long Jie, everyone talking about Long Jie was especially irritating her. Luckily, she had a grandson to comfort her. After all, the birth of the child couldn't be revealed in public. So, Mother Lu told her friends and family that Lu Che's ex-girlfriend gave birth to the child. Lu's relatives weren't stupid, right? Lu Che and Long Jie had been married for so long, yet their child was only 100 days old. Wasn't this indirectly implying that Lu Che cheated on his wife and was a jerk? Lu Che and Long Jie had been married for so long, yet their child was only 100 days old. Didn't they indirectly say that Lu Che cheated on his wife and was a jerk? After Father Lu heard this, he was furious as he dragged Mother Lu into the waiting room. I've never seen a mother like you. Lu Che has always been clean. Why are you making him sound so bad? I told you a long time ago that it doesn't matter if Lu Che and Xiao Man have a second child or if they have a son, but you insisted on forcing it. Now that the child has been born, everyone is avoiding it and trying to cover it up. Yet, you even held 100 days celebration for your child. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Mother Lu humphed and retorted. Back then, when I asked Lu Che to have a son, who didn't stand on my side. Later, when I asked Lu Che to break up with that woman, who didn't stand on my side either. Now that we have a child, I want to give my grandson a proper identity. Yet, you still don't stand on my side. Whose husband are you? After hearing this, Father Lu held his forehead in his hand. I can't even communicate with you. I already have a grandson, so of course I have to give him a proper name. I can't let him act like a mouse and be talked about by others. I naturally have to give him a proper identity. As for Che, I will only say that it was that bitch who stole his love and forced Che to break up with his ex-girlfriend to marry her. Father Lu froze for a moment. He couldn't understand why a perfectly fine family would end up like this. Do whatever you want. I can't do anything about it. After speaking, Father Lu stormed out of the waiting room, leaving Mother Lu to sneer. Why are you pretending to be serious? You're obviously happy to have a grandson. Afterwards, Mother Lu tidied up a little before she left the waiting room and continued to mingle with the guests. Lu Che never imagined that his own mother would ruin his image in such a way. Although he appeared nonchalant on the surface, Long Jie knew how it felt to be hurt by the person closest to him. That night, the Lu family home was decorated luxuriously. Although they did not invite outsiders and only invited members of the Lu family to the banquet, such a large family, there were at least a few dozen people present. On top of that, they were here to watch a good show. When all of them gathered together, it was quite a scary scene. Father Lu was the third oldest child in the family. He had 2 older brothers above him. However, Lu Che rarely mentioned his uncles because he rarely interacted with them and he didn't like them. So, He didn't allow Long Jie to have any proper contact with the relatives. But little did he know, this would cause Long Jie some trouble. Because when Mother Lu's relatives questioned her, she ended up ruining Long Jie's image. Plus, Long Jie was from the entertainment industry, and she had been in the news recently. As a result, the Lu family's impression of her worsened. They all thought that Lu Che must have lost his mind to have married an actress like her. At this moment, Lu Che and Long Jie's car was on the way. Your relatives are all here, but after we registered our marriage, I don't think we've officially met them. The couple got married in a low-key manner without holding a grand wedding. Afterwards, because of the child, they were tormented for a long time before they finally gave birth to a daughter. Perhaps even Lu Che didn't know that when he first told Mother Lu that he wanted Dingku, it was the fuse that ignited everything. So, they did not formally introduce their daughter-in-law to their relatives. Afterwards, when Long Jie gave birth to a daughter, Mother Lu's dissatisfaction towards Long Jie intensified. Chapter 10:51. Lu Che thought for a moment before replying. It's because I've never considered these people important. As you know, when it comes to unrelated people, I don't interact much with them, and I don't want to waste my time on them. So, I don't want to cause you any awkwardness or trouble. It's not because I don't want to introduce you to them. Understand? Long Jie nodded. This was in line with Lu Che's personality. He didn't like unnecessary pleasantries. In a moment, if we come across wolves or tigers, you need to protect me. Lu Che smiled as he placed Long Jie's head on his shoulder. Because what was about to happen was a terrifying battlefield. With this premise and background, tonight's 100-day celebration was going to be spectacular and entertaining. However, up until now, the child that Mother Lu was talking about was still asleep and had not been carried out. Meanwhile, the two main characters, Lu Che and Long Jie, had not arrived yet. Some people also noticed, where was the child's mother? As Lu Che's ex-girlfriend, was she also at the Lu family home? With a series of questions, the relatives and friends were extremely passionate because there was going to be a good show to watch. Papa Lu did not want to be a part of the conversation at all. After all, everyone was sucking the blood of his loved ones. Io, Annie, why isn't Lu Che home yet? We can't wait. Exactly. Do you guys think he's coming home alone? Or is he coming home with two people? If he's coming home with two people, then the scene is going to be spectacular. If Lu Che was smart, he wouldn't have brought Long Jie home. It was obvious that he wasn't coming home to be looked down upon. If that woman was smart, she wouldn't have made an appearance either. With so many eyes on her, how could she not feel uncomfortable? But everyone was wrong, especially when Lu Che's car drove into the Lu family home. As soon as everyone saw Lu Che step out of the car and walk around the front of the car to open the door for Long Jie, some people sighed that this woman wasn't smart enough, while others were excited and couldn't wait to watch the show. As soon as Long Jie stepped out of the car, she felt everyone's sharp gazes. They were like X-rays that wanted to pierce through her body. It was obvious that Mother Lu had done a lot of research for these people. Of course, this was all within her expectations. If she was afraid, she wouldn't be Lu Che's wife and Tong Ning's assistant. Lu Che obviously understood what these so-called friends and family were thinking. So, he asked Long Jie to hold onto his arm as the two of them approached without a trace of fear. Why are you all standing at the door? To welcome us? Mother Lu glanced at Lu Che. He actually brought this woman with him, so she let out a cold humph. Lu Che, that's not very nice of you. Back when you registered your marriage, you didn't even tell everyone. Now that you have two children, shouldn't you introduce them to everyone? A cousin looked at Long Man and raised an eyebrow. Lu Che, that's not very nice of you. This is Long Man, my wife, Lu Che said with a handsome smile as he pointed to Long Jie. Long Jie wasn't afraid as she nodded her head at everyone. Hello, uncles, elders, brothers, and sisters. TSK, who's your sister? Someone muttered behind her. In reality, everyone could hear them laughing on the inside. But Long Jie didn't care. Okay, since Lu Che's back, let's start the banquet. When the auspicious time arrives, I will carry your son out. As Mother Lu spoke, she looked at Long Jie with a provocative smile. It seemed she was trying to tell Long Jie that if she didn't want to give birth to the Lu family, someone else would. But Long Jie simply responded with a look that said, whoever wanted to give birth could go ahead. I'm not a tool for the Lu family. Everyone else either looked at Mother Lu sympathetically or ridiculed her. Some simply wanted to watch the show. Lu Che and Long Jie looked at each other without a word as they sat down with their friends and relatives. Of course, while they were waiting for the auspicious time, someone couldn't help but ask Long Jie a question. It was the daughter of one of the uncles. She placed her head on the table and pretended to be nosy as she tried to get closer to Long Jie. Sister-in-law, I've been seeing you on the news a lot lately. You and Tongning are so close. How did Tongning become Joan's disciple? Why don't you tell us about it? After hearing this, Long Jie was about to respond, but the mother of the girl stopped her. What's there to gossip about an entertainer? Aren't the magazines out there enough for you to read? The girl responded with an, oh, and did not ask any more questions. The atmosphere turned awkward. At this time, another elder spoke up. Since this is a family gathering, let's not talk about outside matters. But, Lu Che, you've done something wrong. You've been married for so long, yet we've never met your wife. You should reflect on this. It doesn't matter if she's just playing around. Is that why you didn't bring her home? She is, after all, an entertainer. Perhaps she's not that important to second brother. The last two sentences were whispered between the two aunties, but Lu Che and Long Jie still heard them. This was a trap, so the two were prepared to fight back. As a result, Lu Che smiled and replied, it's not that Xiao Man isn't important to me. It's that I don't think there's anything to introduce to family members that I don't interact with. What do you think? In other words, the two of them had placed themselves in the wrong position. Why did they have to think so highly of themselves? The faces of the two aunties immediately turned red. After all, Lu Che had slapped them in the face, so of course they didn't look good. Lu Che, no matter what, we are still your family. Does second auntie think that the two of you share the same bed as me and my wife? Lu Che asked with a smile. That, Che, how can you speak to your elders like this? Mother Lu raised her authority as a parent and lectured Lu Che. You're already the father of 2 children. How can you not know your limits? By the way, where's your daughter? Why didn't you bring her here? In other words, did he also think that his daughter wasn't important? For the same reason, our baby's sleep is more important. Wouldn't it make her unhappy if we brought her here to meet a bunch of strangers? Lu Che, no matter what, we are still your family. Are you saying that we'd hurt you? Annie too continued to speak to Lu Che. Don't be confused and hurt your own family for the sake of outsiders. I'm well aware of who's an outsider and who's family. You. Chapter 1052. That's enough. Auntie, since you're here to watch a show, why don't you just sit back and watch? If you can't sit back, why don't I expose you to the public and let you scold them? That way, you can shut your mouth. Lu Che ridiculed coldly. No matter what, the Lu family's second auntie was from a prestigious family. How could she feel after being ridiculed by Lu Che? She had never been wronged in her entire life. Lu Che, I am your elder. Are you not happy that I said a few words to you? Then, why didn't you say that you were two-timing her? In my opinion, you and your wife don't really deserve each other. After all, you are indeed birds of feather and a match made in heaven. That's enough. Shut up. Lu Che's second uncle couldn't stand to see his wife embarrass herself, so he yelled, don't lower yourself to the same level as the younger generation. How dare you criticize others? Be quiet. Of course, on the surface, his words sounded like he was trying to stop the drama from continuing. But Lu Che and Long Jie were well aware that the words of these relatives were full of hidden meanings. So, after a moment of silence, Long Jie couldn't help but speak up. I know that everyone here thinks that I have a low status and work in the entertainment industry, so it's normal for you to look down on me. But from what I see, even though all of you come from a prestigious background, you don't seem to be very cultured. A cultured person, even if they look down on someone, wouldn't make things difficult for them, and wouldn't mock them. But look at everyone here. In comparison, your manners don't seem to match up to your status. Although I came from a humble background, I don't feel inferior because of this. Firstly, this is the 21st century. I can earn my own living and not rely on others. I'm not like those pretentious, rich second generations that spend their days idling around. Even though they enjoy gossiping, they still think they're better than others. Secondly, society is open and free to marry. Luce and I are truly in love, and we don't want to hurt others. As for others, they don't have the right to criticize our lives. Thirdly, you have the mentality of a commoner watching a show, but you have to pretend to be noble. You obviously like to watch a show, but you have to say that others are not good enough. This is probably the legendary hypocrisy, right? Stop spouting nonsense. Don't think that everyone doesn't know what kind of trash you are. Luce's second Annie had a bad temper and couldn't stand being provoked. So, as soon as Long Jie spoke, she slammed her hands on the table and stood up. What kind of trash am I? Long Jie asked with a smile. You really are an actor. How shameless. Long Jie originally wanted to say something, but Luce stopped her. Under the table, he held onto Long Jie's hands, gesturing for her not to say anything and to let him handle it. I suggest that we don't talk during the entire banquet, lest everyone feels awkward. In any case, we won't be seeing each other in the future, so why make the atmosphere so stiff? Luce, it'd be best if it's second, Andy. Don't say anything. Otherwise, in the future, if your daughter gets pregnant and you need me to help you with some news, I may not be so convenient. The threat in Luce's words was extremely obvious. Of course, this also made his second Annie immediately shut her mouth. By the way, little cousin, since you like asking your sister-in-law questions so much, you should first sort out your relationship with your two boyfriends. As for the other things that can't be brought up in public, I won't talk about them. Since you all know what I do for a living, you should know that I get hold of information very quickly. If I want revenge, none of you can escape. Should we continue? Everyone fell silent. Very well. At this time, Long Jie tilted her head and whispered into Luce's ear, How did you know about these things? Of course, I came prepared. As soon as Mother Lu invited him to attend her son's 100-day celebration, he had already secretly investigated them. Otherwise, it would have been extremely difficult to shut them up. At this moment, no one said a word. However, the anger in their hearts grew stronger, but there was nothing they could do about Luce. All they could do was place their hopes on Mother Lu. Okay, it's almost the auspicious time. I'll go carry the little rascal out. Mother Lu said as she looked at her watch and stood up from her seat. This must be the first time you've seen your son, right? Watch closely in a moment. This was the main event, but Luce did not panic. In fact, his expression did not change at all. Even Long Jie tried her best to hold back her laughter. These relatives of yours, sure, are hard to please. Shouldn't people from a wealthy family know how to put on a good front? That's for outsiders. Which wealthy family doesn't have a few spoiled relatives? Luce replied. That was true. Everyone knew that in a situation like this, it was best not to speak if possible. Only the stupid ones would explode like a firecracker. Soon, Mother Lu walked out of the bedroom with the child in her arms. In reality, she had already arranged for the child's mother to take care of the child at home. Since she needed to find a nanny, she might as well bring the child home. This was a violation of the contract. But, for the sake of her grandson's health, she felt that the best and most convenient way was to use the mother's breast milk. Luce, come and see your son. Mother Lu excitedly carried the child as she ran over to Luce's side. The rest of the family quickly surrounded the child and began to tease him. He's so cute. He's so cute. He looks so much like Luce. Hearing this, Long Jie almost burst out in laughter, but Luce simply turned around and glared at her. Of course, it wasn't because he was surprised, but because he was trying to remind her not to go overboard. Luce, come and see. This is your son. He looks so much like you. What do you mean? Luce teased. Can you describe it in detail? As soon as everyone heard this, they thought Luce was happy, so they immediately replied, His eyebrows are the most similar, and so is his mouth shape. Luce, what's wrong with you? Why are you still sitting? Hurry and see your son, Mother Lu urged. Mother Lu urged. She assumed that as soon as Luce saw the child, he would be attracted to it and wouldn't waste any more time on Long Jia. But Luce remained motionless. Luce, since this is the main event, I will officially tell you that I, Luce, only have a daughter. I don't have a son, Luce replied. Luce, are you crazy? Your son is so important, yet you refuse to acknowledge him? Do you know how gloomy it is for a child to grow up without a father? Chapter 1053. So, Luce asked, you move back in and take care of your son. That's right, Luce. Since he's your child, you can't just attend to him. Plus, you're in the wrong. You're already married, yet you let your ex-girlfriend give birth to your child. I think you shouldn't be so heartless. Luce's friends and relatives began to kindly offer advice. However, Luce calmly looked at everyone and smiled. Who told you I let my ex-girlfriend give birth to my child? His friends and relatives all looked at Mother Lu in unison. How could your mother lie? That's right. This is what your mother told us. How could it be false? I'm sorry, but she really did lie, Luce replied. It seems that none of you know where this child came from. Fine then. Since that's the case, I'll explain everything to you. Ever since Xiao Man gave birth to our daughter, this great mother of hers has been urging Xiao Man to give birth to another son. But, at the time, Xiao Man had just given birth and was in the middle of her confinement period. Yet, she expressed her dissatisfaction toward Xiao Man giving birth to a daughter and demanded Xiao Man to give her a grandson. Our lives are ours. Whether or not a child is up to Xiao Man. If you were in her shoes, how would you feel if you were forced to give birth to another son right after giving birth to a daughter? Xiao Man and I didn't agree, so she came to our door and made a scene, causing our relationship to fall into an impasse. What's worse, because we didn't agree, she said that as long as I did a test tube test, she wouldn't interfere with our lives anymore. That's where the child came from. Now, are you clear? I don't have an ex-girlfriend. I only have Xiao Man. How could she slander her own son? Mrs. Lu, you've really impressed me. Luce did not give Mother Lu any face as he revealed the whole story in front of everyone. After hearing Luce's explanation, the Lu family looked at each other, and Mother Lu, even if I asked you to do this, even if I asked you to kneel and kowtow to me, even if I asked you to divorce that woman, that was my right. Who asked me to be your mother? Mother Lu was obviously triggered by Luce's words. After all, in her heart, as her son, Luce had the responsibility to cover up her scandals. Now that the battle had spread to the mother and son, the Lu family could only watch helplessly. They knew exactly who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Everything I've done today was forced by you and that woman. Let's see how righteous a mother who had forced her son's private life to the extreme was. Furthermore, your son has already been born. Even if you want to force me, that is an unchangeable fact. Back then, we had an agreement. As long as the child is born, you will no longer interfere with my life. So, I will not take care of this child, nor will I acknowledge it. As for moving back, don't even think about it. Luce, we did sign an agreement. But, as your mother, if I want to go back on my word, you can't do anything to me. Luce, we did sign an agreement. But, as your mother, if I want to go back on my word, you can't do anything to me. That's why you must listen to me. Mama Lu's dominance shocked all the guests of the Lu family. After all, she had perfectly demonstrated what it meant to control her son. So at this moment, they were completely speechless. What if I don't listen? Luce asked. Then just wait for me to expose you. Since you don't want your son, I don't want mine either. Since things had gotten to this point, and the atmosphere was so tense, Luce was probably going to compromise, wasn't he? After all, how could an arm win against a leg? But Luce continued to smile. However, this smile contained a hint of mockery. Are you threatening me? Mrs. Lu, do you really think you can win against me? You didn't want your son a long time ago. Did you just start now? Sure, let's fight to the death. If you expose me, then I'll expose my uncle's private matters and give them a big page. What do you think? After hearing Lu Che's words, Mother Lu looked at him in shock. What do you know? I warned you from the start that my information network is enough to dig 3 feet into your ancestors' graves. If you want to fight me head-on, I welcome you at any time, Lu Che replied. We can give up on our family ties. After all, that's what you plan to do. Everyone present could sense how serious Lu Che's words were. His determination to die together made everyone subconsciously take a few steps back. At this time, only his wife, Long Jia, knew how much agitation and pressure he was under for him to say something like this. How much despair did he feel towards his birth mother? There were plenty of people in this world that were cruel enough to eat their own children. This wasn't something that was written in novels. Reality was a lot more bloody than fiction. The mother and son continued to stare at each other. Neither side was willing to admit defeat, because both sides had shown their attitude, and neither side was willing to give in. You heartless and unscrupulous thing. How could you abandon your mother and son? You're worse than an animal. Faced with Mother Lu's curses, Lu Che did not admit defeat. Was there any love left between the mother and son? Even Father Lu felt a chill down his spine after hearing the conversation between the mother and son. He never imagined that 2 blood-related people could attack each other to such an extent. Perhaps because of the tense atmosphere, the child who was originally in Mama Lu's arms suddenly burst into tears, and Mama Lu's attention was also diverted. Good baby, don't cry. Grandma loves you. At this time, Long Jie did not want Lu Che and Mother Lu to continue arguing. She knew it would only cause Lu Che more pain. So she pinched the back of Lu Che's hand and said softly, let's go home. Go. Mother Lu humphed when she heard this soft word. Someone in this family should indeed leave. You've caused a mother and son to turn against each other, so you should leave. Perhaps because Mother Lu was venting her anger on Long Jie, Lu Che couldn't control himself anymore. Mother Lu treated him well, but he couldn't stand her attacking Long Jie. You've always been the one that made us turn against each other, as well as all of you who were just here to watch the show. Chapter 1054. Don't push me too far. Otherwise, I'll see you in the papers. In that instant, the atmosphere was so tense that it was suffocating. Mama Lu burst into tears. Are you trying to force me to my death? Lu Che suddenly laughed when he heard the threat. Since you think I'm forcing you, I'll do it again. The child in your arms that you kissed and hugged over and over again isn't your biological grandson at all. Because at the hospital, I used someone else's body as a replacement, so I don't have a so-called son at all. Mama Lu laughed when she heard Lu Che's words. I know you don't want to acknowledge this child, so I won't believe anything you say. Now that your son is born, I know that woman won't accept it, but this child will grow up sooner or later. How can you not acknowledge him after a few decades? I don't believe it. That's right, Lu Che. The child looks so much like you. No one will believe you if you say he's not your child. At that moment, the Lu family began to speak up for Mama Lu. That's right, Brother Lu. No matter what you adults do, it has nothing to do with the child. It's too pitiful that no one cares about him. Moreover, although Aunt Lu's methods were a little extreme, she did it for your own good. Since I dare to come today, I'm prepared for anything. Since I've decided to fall out with you today, I have nothing to worry about. Mrs. Lu, I just hope that your heart is strong enough. Then, Lu Che took out the DNA report that he had done with the child from his pocket and placed it on the table. Take a good look and see if we are related by blood. Mama Lu glanced at the report and frowned at Lu Che. Did you set me up? You set me up first. Lu Che pointed at the report and replied seriously. But you probably think that I'm going to fake this report. Don't worry. The child's biological father will be here soon. Plus, this is something that can be easily found out at the hospital. Why would I do something unnecessary? After hearing Lu Che's words, Mama Lu suddenly lost her footing. But she subconsciously hugged the child even tighter. Since this child was prepared by you and you've taken care of the pregnant woman for 10 months, I have no objections if you want to continue raising him. It's a boy anyway. You can treat him as your own grandson. At this point, Luce raised his brows and sneered at everyone. So, which part of this child resembles me? Luce, you asked for it. Luce replied coldly. It was your repeated coercion that led to the current situation. It was your overbearing attitude that caused us to break off our relationship. Mama Lu was shaking with anger, but she couldn't say a word. She could only twitch, her eyes red. Luce, is she your mother? Shut up if you're making sarcastic remarks. At that moment, the atmosphere in the dining room was stiff to the extreme. However, that was when the butler brought the guest into the living room and told Mama Lu, "Madam, this gentleman said he's young masters, so I brought him in." This was a well-built man with a strong build. He looked quite elegant as he approached Luce and asked, "Didn't you say that I should pick up the child? The child is over there," Luce said, pointing at the child in Mama Lu's hands with his chin. However, Madame Lu insists that he is her own grandson and can't accept anything else. Seriously, are you asking me to pick up the child or to prove his identity? Both. The man rolled his eyes helplessly. Then, he pulled out another DNA test report and walked up to Mama Lu. "I'm sorry, Auntie Lu, but the child in your hands is indeed my son. It's not Luce's. Please take a closer look at this child. Isn't he the same as me? Are you two playing with me?" Mama Lu looked at the child in her arms. She was clearly on the verge of breaking down. "That's impossible. I've taken good care of him for 10 months, and you're telling me that he's not my grandson?" Seeing that she was in a daze, the man strode forward and snatched the child from her hands. "You can't blame Luce for treating you like this. You should take a look at yourself and see what you've done to hurt your own son. I've never seen a mother like you. Since I've picked up the child, I'm sorry, but I can't get involved in your family matters. I'll be leaving with the child now." Mama Lu wanted to snatch the child back when she saw it being snatched away, but the man quickly left the Lu family home with the child in his arms. After all, judging from her expression, what if the child's safety was threatened? Back at the hospital, he had already discussed with Luce that Luce would inform him to pick up the child after it was born. Suddenly, her arms were empty. A year's worth of hard work had been used to raise someone else's child. Mama Lu had completely lost it. "Luce, you're an animal. You have no right to judge me based on what you've done. You can't do anything to me." After saying this, Luce turned to look at the pale-faced Father Lu. "I'm sorry, Dad." Father Lu waved his hand. His entire body felt like it had been hollowed out as he looked exhausted. "You guys can leave. Don't come back. Go live your own life." "Luce, you're so ruthless." "This is ruthless? Let me tell you something even more ruthless. Xiao Man is pregnant again. The doctor said it might be a boy this time. But after the child is born, I will tell him how his grandmother forced his parents. I will make sure your grandson hates you for the rest of his life." After speaking, Luce turned around to leave with Long Jie. But Mother Lu chased after them. "Luce, don't go. Don't go. Long Man, I want a grandson. I was wrong. Come back." At this moment, the word mother no longer existed in Luce's heart. So, no matter what Mother Lu said, he pretended not to hear as he turned around and left with Long Jie. Behind them, Mother Lu cried out in pain. But Luce did not turn around. Meanwhile, the Lu family's relatives swore to themselves that no matter what happened from now on, they would never offend Luce. If his own mother was treated in such a way, then what about others? As a result, Luce had completely cut off all ties with the Lu family. Long Jie saw everything. At this moment, apart from heartache, there was nothing else. Because at this moment, no amount of consolation was enough to make Luce feel empty and powerless. Chapter 1055. After all, what else in this world could be more heart-wrenching than being hurt by one's own mother? So, Long Jie did not say a word on the way home. It was only after they arrived home that she hugged Luce and comforted him. It's all in the past. Luce did not move as he allowed Long Jie to hug him. But it didn't take long before he began to sob in her arms. Everyone's heart was made of flesh, so how could he not be in pain when his own mother poked a hole in his flesh? Meanwhile, Long Jie was filled with regret. If she had known that Lu Che would have to pay such a huge price for their happiness, she would not have argued with Mother Lu so much. Cry. Have a good cry. When you wake up tomorrow, everything will be better. In reality, after Lu Che left, a lot of things happened in the Lu family home. Especially when his relatives and friends were discussing how to help Mother Lu. Father Lu finally lost his temper. This is a private matter. If you're done watching the show, you can leave. My son has already said that if you don't control your mouths, he will stay with you until the end and sever his relationship with you. You should be satisfied. Third uncle, get lost. Father Lu's roar echoed throughout the Lu family home because he had reached the limit of his patience. After everyone was dumbfounded, Father Lu stood up from his seat and said calmly to Mother Lu, I finally understand. You want to control your son. That's why you're doing all this. You're not doing this for the good of this family. Tomorrow, come with me to the Civil Affairs office. It's time for us to settle our matters and get a divorce. As soon as Father Lu said this, everyone was shocked, especially Mother Lu. What did you say? I said get a divorce. I can't live with you anymore. After speaking, Father Lu walked out of the room, putting an end to the farce. After all, if he had controlled his wife properly, this wouldn't have happened. But it was too late to say anything now. He was tired. All that was left was Mother Lu. All she could do was sit on the floor and sob. She couldn't understand why her son and husband treated her like this. What did she do wrong? The Lu family's relatives left. After all, they didn't want to offend Lu Che. So, Mother Lu was suddenly the only one left in the lively courtyard, and the darkness would gradually devour her. That night, no one had a good time. Lu Che hadn't had a single drop of water since he got home. He had stayed in his study for a long time. There was nothing Long Jie could do. All she could do was take good care of her daughter as she sat in the nursery and sighed. He could only hope that time could heal the pain in everyone's heart. The next day, Lu Che returned to normal and behaved no different than usual. As for Long Jie, she ignored everything that happened the night before and moved on. After Lu Che left for work, he returned to Tong Ning's side. However, from the moment she stepped into Hyatt Regency, she had been in a daze. So, Tong Ning couldn't help but notice her condition. What happened between you and Lu Che last night? Did it cause you to be distracted at all times today? Since the incident was already in the past, Long Jie decided to tell Tong Ning everything that had happened at the Lu family home like it was a bitter river. After all, Lu Che has cut off all ties with his parents. What's done is done. No matter how much you think about it, it's useless, Tong Ning comforted. I know, but I really don't want Lu Che to suffer like this, Long Jie said as her eyes turned red. Actually, this incident isn't completely irreparable. My Long Jie may be careless, but she's not an idiot. Am I right? Long Jie looked at Tong Ning helplessly. What should I do? After listening to your story, I feel that Lu Che's father is quite rational. You could try to help Lu Che, but he may not be willing to see me. That's where you need to work hard. Long Jie, you need to remember, family is the most special of all relationships. It's true that you are related by blood, but there are some people that act recklessly because they are related by blood. Outsiders may know when to stop, but family may not. It doesn't matter if you argue or snatch. You need to be careful when dealing with relationships like this, because the people that you can actually hurt are the people that are stuck in the middle because they care. But there's one good thing about family. There's no overnight grudge. Even if you end up fighting, you can quickly make up. Which family doesn't have their own problems? I'll give you a little more time to deal with this matter. Otherwise, when you come to work, you'll end up being distracted. Long Jie nodded her head. This was a knot in her heart. Plus, seeing Lu Che in pain made her feel even worse. But, to her surprise, by the time she found Father Lu, he and Mother Lu had already obtained their divorce certificate. Long Jie felt that appearing in front of Father Lu at a time like this was asking for a beating. But Father Lu did not blame her. The couple found a cafe and sat down peacefully. Dad, I know what you want to say. This decision was made by me. It had nothing to do with the two of you. Is Che okay? Long Jie shook her head. After returning home last night, She cried and locked herself in the study room. She hasn't come out for a while. No one wants to see things turn out like this. But I have to take more responsibility. If I had noticed from the start that she had become so narrow-minded, I would have corrected her earlier and things wouldn't have gotten to this point. But it really has nothing to do with you. This is a matter between us. From now on, you and Lu Che should live a good life. Don't mind what others say. But knowing that Long Jie was genuinely worried, Father Lu smiled. We've already lived for so long. Can't we take care of ourselves? I'm already at the age of retirement. All I need to do is plant and grow flowers at home. Perhaps this will be the end of my life. If you still acknowledge me as your father, then bring your granddaughter home to see me. I don't have any other wishes. Yes, of course I do. Afterwards, Father Lu and Lu Che got on the phone and honestly explained the situation. Of course, there were some things that they couldn't turn back from. Dad, take good care of yourself. When you're ready, you can move in with us. That way, you can get closer to your granddaughter. Things have already gotten to this point. I still need some time to calm down. That's all. Chapter 1056. Father Lu temporarily rejected Lu Che's invitation. But, no matter what, Lu Che felt a lot better. As for some women, once their relationship was broken, it was over. The only reason why Lu Che wasn't worried was because that woman had her own family backing her up. But, just as Lu Che was about to hang up the phone, Father Lu suddenly held him back. Xiao Man came to look for me. It seems she really cares about your feelings. She knows that you're not doing well, so she didn't retreat even though she risked being scolded by me. She's currently pregnant, so you need to take good care of her. Okay, Dad. Regardless of what happened, Lu Che finally felt relieved. As for Long Jie, he was going to cherish her. However, he had no idea that after their divorce, Mother Lu once visited Hai Rui and watched as Lu Che entered and left the building. But she did not approach him. Not only had she lost her son, but her husband had also left her. After hearing that Long Jie had resolved the matter with the Lu family, Tang Ning felt a lot more relieved. Afterwards, she invited in Zaheo to Hyatt Regency to watch a movie. There were still some areas that needed adjusting, but in Zaheo shrugged his shoulders. Although I can't believe it, the special effects are indeed well done. You've trained a strong team. Although the main storyline was a little weak, President Mo and Coco's acting made up for this weakness. Coupled with the exciting sound effects, the entire film was filled to the brim. Although my post-production wasn't as good as Xiao San's, I must say that you did an outstanding job with the Ant Queen. If you're praising someone, just praise them. You don't have to be so professional, Long Jie complained. Tang Ning let out a laugh. Sure enough, the sky was clear after the rain. Long Jie's carefree personality had returned. No, we completed it together. What do you plan to do now? The first version of the trailer has already been completed. We are about to start the first wave of publicity before we hold a test screening, Tang Ning replied. The test screening this time will be targeted at a specific group of people. For example, film critics and fans that like sci-fi. Let me know if I need anything else. And Zaheo replied. How has Xingyan been lately? At the mention of this mischievous brat, and Zaheo shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, I've planned a path for her to become an international superstar, but she insists that there are too few female martial arts stars in the country. She even tried to beat around the bush and decided to enter the martial arts world. As a girl and Mo Ting's sister, how ugly would it be for her to wield a martial arts club? You're just being tough on the outside, but soft on the inside. You're worried that she'll get hurt, aren't you? Actually, Xingyan is right. There's a shortage of female martial arts stars in the country. There's special effects now, but it's still very different from the visual experience of punching flesh. And Zaheo touched his neck again. Zaheo, I don't care what you do. Since Ting has handed Xingyan over to you, you should be responsible for her happiness and safety. Got it. Now you're putting on airs as my sister-in-law? The three chatted happily like the storm had passed. But Tang Ning had no idea that the biggest threat was actually within her fan club. As she was about to hold a test screening, she decided to give a portion of her fans a chance to watch the film. Apart from comforting them a little, she also wanted to make sure that there were capable people amongst the fan club that could provide their own opinions on the film. Of course, even if she didn't invite her fans, the official fan club would still receive the news before the trailer was released. After all, they needed to coordinate with the film's publicity. Afterwards, Long Jie announced the good news to the official fan club. As a result, the group exploded in excitement. My Tongning's new film is going to be released? Oh God, am I seeing things? Oh, I'm going crazy. Long Jie, you're so mean. How can you announce it at a time like this? I can't even carry on with my work. Long Jie happily replied in the group chat. That's right, Tongning's sci-fi film is about to be released. So, I hope everyone will cooperate with the promotion. When the time comes, I will ask the president of the fan club to take charge of the promotion. Also, this news has not been released to the public yet, so please keep it a secret for now. Watch your mouths. Otherwise, I'll start scolding you. For loyal fans, nothing was more important than protecting their idol's interests. Meanwhile, the official fan club was the main source of support for the fans. Since Tongning's film was going to be released, apart from being excited, they also had to cooperate. In reality, since Long Jie had already announced it to the official fan club, why would she need to keep it a secret? It was simply a way to reward the fans. By letting them know in advance, it would give them the confidence to speak up for themselves. But no one expected Han Shocha had been keeping his fan club's notifications open the entire time. As soon as Long Jie spoke, he noticed it. Tongning's new film was going to be released, and it was a sci-fi film. As expected, this was the benefit of waiting and suffering. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity to slander Tongning? With this thought, a brilliant plan formed in Han Shocha's mind. After all, he had studied a lot of sci-fi films and made a lot of short films. Since Tongning liked sci-fi so much, he was going to edit some of them and cause trouble for her. And he wasn't going to tell anyone about this. So, Tongning wouldn't be able to find out anything. So, just as Tongning was going through her final confirmation of the promotional video, someone suddenly released a piece of news online. Tongning's new film has been released. Quick, take a look at the footage of Tongning's latest sci-fi film. As soon as Long Jie discovered this, she immediately downloaded the footage and verified it. So, did her documents really get leaked? The couple were on their way to the post-production studio. Because of the urgency of the situation, Tongning asked Long Jie as she walked, I've looked through the footage in detail. It's not our documents that got leaked. Someone deliberately used other sources to create this footage. What's their motive? After I saw the footage, I tried to guess their motive. The sci-fi effects of the footage were simply hilarious, but they cleverly interspersed it with footage from Xiao San's previous films. This caused the public to misunderstand and think that your films are rubbish. Although news of Boss appearing in a film had previously spread, the public weren't sure. So, the culprit cleverly found footage from Xiao San's previous films and edited it. So, I'm guessing they simply want the public to ridicule your film. Chapter 1057. After hearing Long Jie's analysis, Tongning let out a sigh of relief. As long as the resources weren't actually leaked, the situation wasn't that serious. Show me these videos. After watching the 3 leaked clips of her film, she said to Long Jie, the timing of this incident is quite clever. You mean the fan club? However, we didn't really expect them to keep it secret. But now it seems that we are being used by people with ulterior motives. Because Tongning's new movie was indeed going to be released. It was at this time that such a video was leaked. Sure enough, before one wave had subsided, another wave had risen. As a result, the public were even more doubtful about Tongning's film career, especially since she was Joan's student. As Joan's disciple, if Tongning has really produced a film of this quality, I would advise her to return to acting. Although the authenticity of this has yet to be verified, I want to say that the leaked footage is really terrible. It's so bad that it hurts my eyes. This isn't my Ning's movie, right? I won't believe it even if I die. Didn't you see Johnson inside? The 3 videos were all around 20 seconds long. There was no main plot, just some special effects. However, it was obvious that these things were an insult to the audience's intelligence. As a result, Tongning was ridiculed by everyone. Worst of all, what was originally a bonus had now become a shackle for Tongning. Not only Tongning, even Mo Ting took this matter seriously. Especially after watching the video, it was actually very easy to refute the rumors. But, under the situation where they didn't know who the other party was, what if the other party reacted accordingly? Moreover, the publicity plan had already been drawn up. Now, due to an unexpected reason, everything had to be messed up. Mo Ting and Tongning were the same. They didn't like being in a passive position. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that someone might make a joke out of the video after finding out about this. After all, many fans would edit the video on many video websites in order to satisfy their desire to watch in advance. This wasn't illegal, but the current situation was that a lot of fans were successfully misled. One of the main reasons was because of Qiao's senator. This increased the authenticity of the video. Han Xiuqia must have thought that Tongning was worried sick. Or did he think Tongning's film would be of this standard? But no matter what, he firmly believed that Tongning did not have a good time. But what did Tongning think in the end? The outside world is filled with ridicule. How can you be so calm? Long Jie asked anxiously after seeing Tongning's calmness. That's because this matter might not necessarily be harmful to me. Think about it. Although people tend to have their first impressions, it's still not real. I was worried that everyone was expecting too much of me just because I'm Joan's disciple. But after seeing this video, in other words, the appearance of this video has actually lowered the audience's expectations for you. When the time comes, when our movie is actually released, it will be amazing. Long Jie quickly understood what Tongning was trying to say. Okay, we can only look on the bright side. So let them mock us. When the time comes, we just need to use the right method to pull them back onto the right track. The promotional schedule will remain the same. There will be no changes. After hearing Tongning's arrangements, Long Jie felt like she had returned to the days when she first started out as an actress. Do you still remember how you were ridiculed when you acted in Stupid? How many people were waiting to see you fail at the box office? But from Stupid to Survivor, all your films have created miracles at the box office. Since the past is in the past, let's move on, Tongning reminded. Tongning reminded Long Jie, no matter what, don't hold on to your past achievements. Otherwise, it's easy to lose sight of yourself. Plus, who knows, the Ant Queen might actually fail at the box office. You jinx. Long Jie couldn't help but spit. Who curses their own film to fail? Tongning looked at Long Jie's reaction and laughed. She then downloaded the videos that Han Xiuqia made on her phone. Although she was indeed ridiculed, she felt that if she wanted to find the mastermind, she might be able to find some clues from these videos. Of course, Mo Ting supported Tongning's idea. That afternoon, the living room of Tongning and Mo Ting's home was empty. But it was filled with the latest entertainment news. Two-time Best Actress Tongning is about to return to the film industry with a new film. But not too long ago, a leaked version of Tongning's new film was released online. In terms of quality, it wasn't as good as expected. So, today, we will take you to Hai Rui to interview President Mo. Let's see if we can get more accurate information from him. Afterwards, the camera is cut to Mo Ting walking out of the main entrance of Hai Rui. President Mo, can you tell me if the footage of Tongning's new film that's been circulating online is true? Wait until the official trailer is released. You will know if it's true, Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. The media chased after him the entire way. But during the 1-minute journey, he only answered one question. However, this answer was equivalent to not answering them. But he also indirectly denied that the footage was from Tongning's new film. Otherwise, the film wouldn't have been released at the prearranged time. From the looks of it, the authenticity of the leaked footage was still questionable. But to most people, Tongning was indeed working hard. In order to produce a sci-fi film, she even sacrificed Xiao Sen's life. But hard work and professionalism were two different things. Even if Tongning was meticulous, the film she produced could still end up as a bad film. After all, This wasn't a normal film. It was a sci-fi film. The most difficult sci-fi film to produce. Whether it was during filming or post-production, the audience could clearly see that it couldn't be faked. So, the industry didn't have high hopes for her. This time, they didn't have high hopes for her. It wasn't because Tongning didn't have good acting skills, nor was it because she didn't work hard enough. It was because she had chosen the most difficult path. Tongning knew this better than anyone. But so what? Tongning looked at the films that were going to be released recently. Some were strong, some were weak, and some were American blockbusters. As for her film, it had the lowest expectations. Seeing this scene, Tongning felt a sense of déjà vu. Chapter 1058. So, she smiled helplessly. Why was it that every time she had a new project, she ended up in a similar situation? Meanwhile, Immerse wasn't affected at all. After Hairue revised the trailer, it was decided that it would be released in theaters across the country in 3 days. So, during this time, Tongning once again ignored Han Xiuqia's provocation. This made Han Xiuqia even angrier. Meanwhile, on Tongning's official fan page, Long Jie did not reveal any more information, nor did she give an explanation. However, this operation of his could only fool the people outside. It could not fool his own brother at all. Last time, you almost made your brother kneel down and apologize on your behalf. What evil idea did you come up with this time? Did you create the fake trailer for Tongning's new film? Big brother. I owe you. Han Xiuqia only showed a little bit of weakness in front of his brother. I owe you from a past life. Stop hiding and come back. No matter what happens, your brother will always be here for you. Han Xiuqia's brother said gently. Han Xiuqia's brother said gently. In this world, your older brother treats you the best. You have to admit that. As Han Xiuqia had lost his mother since he was young, his brother played 2 roles. He knew that his brother had trouble expressing his emotions, so he was exceptionally tolerant towards him. Even when his brother got into trouble, he tried his best to forgive and understand. As a result, Han Xiuqia may be rebellious when it came to small matters, but when it came to big matters, he would always listen to his brother. From the looks of it, you're going against Tongning for the rest of your life. In reality, as soon as Han Xiuqia's brother found out who was behind the fake trailer, he decided to find Han Xiuqia. He was confident that Tongning would be able to find the culprit in no time. So, he was going to do his best to ensure Han Xiuqia's safety. But even if Hairue comes looking for you, I will still do my best to protect you. I won't let you get hurt. If you had to find someone to dote on in real life, it would be Han Xiuqia's brother. I can't believe you came up with something like this to slander Tongning. From what his brother said, it seemed he thought his method was childish. But he felt his method was simple and violent, perfect for dealing with Tongning. Over the next few days, Hairue and Tongning did not step out to explain or slap the face of the fake video. Because, deep down, Tongning pretended that she had never seen the video and turned a deaf ear to it. 3 days later, on the day of the first screening on Sunday afternoon, Immerse had already finished all the preparations and was going to release the first version of the trailer in the cinemas. As it was the weekend, there were a lot of people attending the film. So, after communicating with Hairue, they arranged for the first trailer for The Ant Queen to be released before every screening. So, that afternoon, the movie fans entered the cinema unprepared. As they watched the opening advertisement, a giant termite suddenly appeared on the screen. Many of them turned pale with fright, but at the same time, they found it exciting. Because of this scene, they were deeply attracted to it. After that, there were a few more exciting scenes, but everyone noticed it. This male lead, the man in the film, who was always on guard, was Immerse. Then, the name of the director appeared on the screen, Chiao Sun and Ziheo. Finally, the name of the producer and producer, Tongning. After the 20-second trailer, the name of the film was revealed, The Ant Queen. Film fans were dumbfounded. They had no idea what had happened in those 20 seconds. In fact, because of the trailer, they lost interest in the film that was to follow. Plenty of film fans began to confirm with each other in the cinema. Some even started chatting with strangers. That, I also want to know if I'm seeing things. I just recorded the last few seconds of the trailer. That's when the name of the film was revealed. So, you guys didn't see it wrong. It's the Ant Queen. This was the first time the staff had ever seen a member of the audience make such a request. They actually wanted them to play the trailer for the Ant Queen again. It was also the first time he had seen a movie fan get so excited over a movie's trailer. But this was a cinema, not a home theater. How could they back off? Film fans had no choice but to buy tickets for the next screening before it started, just so they could watch the trailer one more time. This was because Rue had an agreement with the cinema chain. The trailer for the Ant Queen was only to be played in the cinema, and film fans were not allowed to watch it through any other channels. Even if they used their phones to film the trailer, as soon as it was released online, it would be censored as much as possible. This was to create a sense of mystery for the film. But even though it was only shown in the cinema, the numbers were already shocking. Many film fans finally got to watch the trailer a second time. This time, because they paid special attention to it, they watched the entire 20 seconds carefully, afraid that they would miss out on any details. In the end, everyone confirmed that the actor was Mo Ting, the director was Chiao Sun and Nzaheo, and the producer was Tongning. The quality of this trailer is really good. One look, and you can tell that it has a good feel to it. It's completely different from the leaked version that was previously circulating online. Fuck, that's awesome. When those termites came out, I was shocked. If this is the official version of the film, does that mean that the leaked version was just a rumor? It's obvious. This is a sci-fi film, not anything else. There's no way it could become so strong in just a few days, right? Someone must have slandered it. This is the film that Tongning wants to showcase. It's the real deal. I'm done for. I've only watched it for 20 seconds, but I'm already burning with excitement. I must say, Rue sure knows how to do business. They only allowed the film to be shown in the cinema and only once per film. While this netizen commented, he also showed the ticket stubs of all the films he had watched that afternoon. All because I wanted to watch the trailer for The Ant Queen. Objectively speaking, compared to the leaked version online, the one that was shown in the cinema does indeed exude a strong sense of Tongning. This is more like what she does. As long as it's related to film and acting, she always takes it 100% seriously. Previously, so many people ridiculed her. Let's see what they can say after seeing the real trailer. In reality, a mere 20 seconds of trailer was not enough to explain everything. After all, a film could condense the best parts into a few seconds. Chapter 1059. So, as soon as the film critics heard about this, they couldn't provide a complete review. All they could do was complain about the leaked version that they had previously seen. Who would be so shameless? But because of how serious Tongning, Mo Ting, and Rue were, film fans also started to treat the film seriously. At least, their attitude wasn't casual. Even though they were simply releasing a promotional video, they were still criticized. But Tongning did not let this mess affect her rhythm. This meant Tongning wasn't affected by the outside world. She was a stable and reliable person. The theater managers were probably laughing like crazy. Although the Ant Queen's trailer couldn't change the trend of the industry, they still reaped more than they usually did on a weekend soon. News of the Ant Queen's exposure spread like wildfire, and Tongning's brilliance could no longer be hidden. I've already collected all the data from the trailer's release. Whether it's in terms of popularity, trending topics, discussions, or anything else, everything is exploding. Tongning, this time, the Ant Queen will definitely sell like hotcakes. After receiving the data, Long Jie waved her hands in front of Tongning. But Tongning did not seem happy at all. "Come here and take a look at something," Tongning said as she stood up from her computer and gestured for Long Jie to sit down. "Look at what? I've been watching it for a few days now, and I haven't missed a single frame. Finally, I found this." Tongning dragged the video to a familiar spot and paused it. She then enlarged the video so Long Jie could see the logo at the bottom of the screen. "But what does this mean?" Long Jie asked. "Guess what I found?" Tongning opened up another website and found a website that allowed her to view Han Xiuqi's comics. She then pulled out the last image of each episode and compared it to the one in the video. "Do you understand now?" After Long Jie saw the video, She was shocked and angry. That jerk. I told him to come out and kneel, but he didn't have the guts to do it. He sure knows how to do things like this. I should have noticed this before. Have you forgotten? He's also well-versed in sci-fi, so it's not surprising that he's able to make a short film like this. Tongning sighed and turned off her computer. Why did you close it? Just take a screenshot and slap yourself in the face. Just this alone won't be enough to slap him in the face. You can find some of the videos online, but he won't admit to it. Plus, don't forget how he completely denied everything he did. Tongning replied. Then what should we do? Since we know that he's behind this, then it's easy. It's better than not knowing anything. Now, the key is, how did he know that we were going to release the promotional video? Does he have any contact with the people in the official chat group? I think it's necessary to figure out these things. Right now, he is in the light, and I am in the dark. We have the right to speak. You're right. Long Jie nodded her head. I can't believe he actually wanted to hurt you. How much does he hate you for him to be so stubborn? Look into the official group in private and pay attention to his next move. Don't worry, I'm good at finding traitors. Long Jie made an okay gesture. To enter the official fan club, one had to go through a strict selection process. Recently, there had been no new members. So, to find out if a fan had leaked the information, they needed to go through a strict investigation. Long Jie contacted the fan club president in private and asked her about the situation. From the president, Long Jie received some answers. Long Jie, firstly, in all the time that I've been the president, as long as it's something that's been kept a secret, the fan club has always kept it a secret. So, I don't think it's possible for information to have been leaked. After all, the members of the fan club are all hardcore fans that have been in the entertainment industry for many years. They know what's important and what's not. So, if there really was a leak, it must have been done by someone else. We can't rush this investigation. How about this? Pay close attention to the fans' movements and see if anything strange has happened. We can focus on that, Long Jie said to the president. What kind of strange thing? For example, a sudden change in their lifestyle. Or they might be online when they shouldn't be online. Or they might be a person that was originally talkative, but suddenly became quiet and simply paid attention to the fan club. If we discover such a person, don't alert them. As long as we know what's going on, that's all we need to know. Long Jie explained in seriousness. I understand, Long Jie. Someone tried to harm my Ning and even used our fan club. I won't let them off so easily. They're too vicious. You've worked hard. Long Jie comforted the president and then logged off. Because they had to wait for the other party to make a mistake before they would notice it. Although Han Shoucha accidentally helped you this time, we still can't defend against people trying to harm us. After hearing this, Tongning let out a gentle laugh. Did you think that Han Shoucha was the only one trying to harm us? Why don't you take a look and see what other domestically produced sci-fi films are going to be released this year? When the time comes, there will be a good show to watch. Other sci-fi films sold their looks and fans. Who else was as serious as Tongning? Originally, as long as a domestic sci-fi film had enough traffic, whether it was special effects or post-production, all they had to do was skimp on it, and they would still be able to make a lot of money. But Tongning's appearance was bound to change this situation. For those filmmakers that took an unconventional approach, it was yet another blow to the head. Cutting someone off from making money was the same as killing their parents. Fine, if something like that really happened, what could we do? We just have to deal with it as it comes. Anyway, I trust you. Long Jie shrugged her shoulders indifferently. Because of the release of the first trailer, Tongning's film went from last place to first place. While everyone sighed at the post-production and special effects, they were also interested in the fact that Mo Ting was the main lead. Of course, since a new film was going to be released, Tongning decided to stop keeping a low profile and use a new identity in the entertainment industry. After all, she had promised that she would return. So, she decided to attend the upcoming film festival. This was also Mo Ting's idea. The Ant Queen had a solid approach to promotion, so, as long as Tongning was required to attend, she would cooperate with them. Tongning announces that she will be attending the Beijing Film Festival. Chapter 1060. Tongning makes a high-profile comeback with the Ant Queen. In just 1 year, Tongning has returned. But have you changed? A year later, Tongning returned to the lobby of Hai Rui. This was the first time since she announced that she would be temporarily retreating from the entertainment industry, and even leaving Hai Rui, that she appeared in front of everyone. As usual, the people at Hai Rui treated her with great respect. After all, the admiration they felt for Tongning was no less than the love they felt for Immerse. Good morning, Ningjie. Good morning, Ningjie. Is Ningjie here for the meeting? That's right. Tongning had come to Hai Rui for the press release of the Ant Queen. Although she was no longer an artist at Hai Rui was still responsible for the post-production of the Ant Queen. So, they were working together. It had been a long time since Fong Yu saw Tongning again. So, before the meeting started, he couldn't help but smile. This time, the board of directors requested to collaborate with you. It's obvious that everyone can tell that the Ant Queen is a real talent. From what I can see, President Mo can do whatever he wants with you from now on, and they won't have any objections. That's why the saying, those who win the hearts of the people win the world, applies to you. How's Jingjing doing? Tongning asked with a smile. We haven't seen each other in a long time. I'll take her to the press release of the Ant Queen, Fong Yu nodded. She knows that your new film is about to be released, so she keeps nagging me about it. I'm so tired that calluses are about to form in my ears. Tongning wanted to say more, but Immerse and Lu Che had already entered the meeting room. At that moment, Immerse acted like he was the decision-maker at Hai Rui and temporarily hid his identity as Tongning's husband. President Immerse is so strict. His expression is so serious. Is that why he usually looks at you guys like this? Tongning teased. Otherwise, why do you think everyone at Hai Rui is so afraid of him? But I actually think he's very charming when he looks like this. I like a lot. How should she put it? Tongning's infatuation with Immerse had not decreased in the slightest. Plus, Immerse was used to being gentle at home. So, it was rare for Tongning to see him so serious. So, her heart couldn't help but race. How useless. The Ant Queen's promotion has met our expectations. That's why we need to release the second trailer as soon as possible. Of course, we won't directly release the trailer. Instead, we are still looking for ways to collaborate with the advertisers. After the Beijing Film Festival, we will hold a pre-screening for the Ant Queen. Fong Yu needs to make preparations and come up with an invite list. Also, Tongning, your post-production team needs to be reorganized. Right now, you need to consider what path you should take after losing Xiao-san for the Ant Queen. Are you ready for the Ant Queen too? Tongning and Immerse looked deeply into each other's eyes. From his eyes, Tongning could see Immerse's seriousness. He was making strict demands on her. This time, he wasn't going to let her experience another climax. He wasn't going to force her out of the entertainment industry again. This time, he wanted her to forever stand at the top of the entertainment industry. You're no longer entering the film and television industry as an actor. You have more problems to deal with. If you want to excel in your role as a producer, you need to take a long-term view, okay? Okay. Hearing this soft and gentle word, all the staff present were shocked. Did this couple come here to show off their love? After the meeting ended, the couple headed into Immerse's office. As soon as the door closed, Tongning wrapped her arms around Immerse from behind. What's wrong? Immerse wanted to turn around, but Tongning held him back. Don't move. You were too mesmerizing just now. My heart has been itching for you for a long time. I want to do this for a long time. Tongning rarely said things like this, but when she did, it was enough to make one's heart flutter. Immerse had already experienced this a long time ago. Although the couple were already parents of 3 children, it had been a long time since they were both so busy with their careers. Apart from complimenting each other in their daily lives, it had been a long time since they had a chance to hug each other like this. Huh, I like it when you're strict with me and when you control me. It gives me a sense of security and direction, Tongning explained gently. Ting, I've been living a blissful life over the past few years. Haven't I been the same? Immerse asked. He then turned around, locked the office door, and carried Tongning in his arms. Ting, what are you doing? Tongning was surprised by Ting's actions as he placed her on the sofa. What do you think? I haven't left a single trace of you in my office yet. After speaking, Ting began to kiss her passionately. Wasn't teasing her man like this the same as hinting at something? Since Tongning was taking the initiative, how could Ting let go of such a great opportunity? It turns out, it's true that you men don't miss out on any place. That's because I love you. That's why I feel like turning into a wolf. Although Tongning's office door was locked from the inside, and she wasn't afraid of anyone entering, Ting's office door wasn't completely sealed. There was still a gap. So, Tongning felt embarrassed the entire time as she buried her head in Ting's chest. Seeing this, Ting couldn't help but laugh. Are you trying to say that if I hide my head, no one will know that you are in my office? Quick, take me home. Yin Air is about to wake up. Tongning's face turned red. Ting stood up and helped her tidy up her clothes. Only after he was done did he use the elevator to take her downstairs. But before she left, Ting reminded beside her ear, remember to go pick out a dress with long jia. You haven't attended formal events in a long time, so most of the dresses at home are old. You should buy some new ones. Okay, Tongning nodded her head. This woman, no matter how many years had passed, and no matter what her identity was on the outside, in front of him, she would always act like she did when they were newlyweds. She would shyly turn her head to the side when they shared a bed for the first time. Even now, she had not changed this habit. After returning home, Tongning called Long Jia over in a serious manner and began to clear out the old gowns. During this time, Long Jia suddenly thought of something and said to Tongning, I've done a check in the group chat. The president has told me that she has made some progress. Since we know that Han Xiucha is the mastermind, we don't have to worry about finding the mole. Let's take it slow. Chapter 1061. However, it seems Han Xiucha's brother will also be attending the Beijing Film Festival. If we see him, we can give him a warning. Long Jie said, your return this time, we need to make sure it's grand. There's no need. I don't need to be grand anymore. Meanwhile, Han Xiucha's brother, Han Jie, was also preparing a suit. But, seeing how restless Han Xiucha was, he couldn't help but sigh. Are you still thinking about framing Tongning? Brother, I want to go to the film festival too. You're in an awkward position now. What are you going to do? Are you going to let Tongning catch you and force you to kneel before her? Han Xiucha's brother glared at his brother. I won't show my face in public. I'll just take a stroll outside. You know, I haven't been out for a long time. Didn't you ask for it? Han Xiucha's brother humphed. However, he couldn't resist Han Xiucha's nagging. When the time comes, you can be my driver. But I have one request. You can't let anyone see you. Otherwise, the two of us will be ridiculed again. Okay, Han Xiucha nodded. By the way, have you seen the trailer for Tongning's new film? Yes, I have. Han Xiucha replied. But, based on the quality of our domestic post-production, it's impossible for us to achieve the effects she created. So, let's not say that you didn't use Hollywood's special effects. You may be able to fool others, but you can't fool me. After hearing this, Han Xiucha's brother was a little surprised. He then asked hesitantly, are you trying to say that Tongning borrowed Hollywood's standards and insisted that the special effects were domestically produced? You don't believe me? Han Jie pondered as he put on his tie. Maybe. However, this direction could be revealed to the big shots of sci-fi movies that were about to be released and used as a reference to mislead the wind. I will think of a way to clarify this matter. But you must promise me that no one will recognize you at the film festival. I swear. Han Xiucha raised his hand. Han Jie had no choice but to nod in agreement since he couldn't disobey his younger brother. However, with the brother's hostility towards Tongning, what kind of exciting story would happen at the film festival? As for Tongning's post-production team, they had no idea that their special effects would be questioned by others and assumed that they had borrowed the help of a Hollywood team. So, was this a compliment or to belittle them? Taking advantage of the fact that the film festival had yet to start, Hai Rui rushed into production on the second trailer for the Ant Queen. As for this edition, compared to the previous one, there were a lot more exciting and risky elements. This time, Moting's motive was to help Tongning open up a limited market and work with a variety of advertisers. This way, they could promote the film to a wider audience and not just film lovers. Because of the release of the Ant Queen, Tongning once again became a hot topic of discussion. Although she had never been forgotten, it couldn't be forgotten that when Tongning disappeared from the entertainment industry, there were a lot of newcomers that debuted. The entertainment industry was flourishing, so it was hard to find a second talent. If Tongning was like this, she could easily enter and exit the industry as she pleased. I've prepared a dress for you for the Beijing Film Festival. Are you satisfied with it? Long Jie had put in a lot of effort to order the dress from France. She wanted to tell Tongning that she would take a look, but the current Tongning had no interest in the red carpet. Leave it there. I'll try it on in a bit. The film festival is tomorrow. Hurry and try it on. If there's anything wrong with the size, I'll make some adjustments. Your appearance will definitely be the highlight. Long Jie dragged Tongning into the fitting room. She had no idea that the dress she ordered wasn't one of a kind. Of course, what was the most awkward thing for a celebrity? It was when someone wore the same outfit as them. Perhaps it was because of their age or because they had been in the industry for too long. Tongning, who had been through a lot, hated attending glamorous events. Everyone knew, on the red carpet, the celebrities appeared harmonious, but in reality, they were competing behind the scenes to snatch the center of attention. There were countless tricks up their sleeves. Rather than standing out in the limelight, she would rather spend time at home with her children or study the post-production of her film. So, she no longer paid attention to her dress like she used to. As long as it was presentable, she didn't care if it wasn't the best dress. But she was, after all, a two-time Fei Tian Best Actress and a legend. Now, she even had a new identity as a producer. So, she naturally became the highlight of the film festival. This was unavoidable. That night, the entertainment news of all the major channels reported on this matter. The film festival will officially open on XX Day. Behind me is the venue of the festival, the Oriental Church. This year's film festival will be as colorful as ever. The superstar Tongning will also be appearing at the Beijing Film Festival with her new film, The Ant Queen. After her shower, Tongning lay in bed waiting for Immerse. Seeing her man return to the bedroom, wrapped in a towel, she turned off the TV and said, "There's a place I want to go before I attend the film festival." Immerse lifted the blankets and climbed into bed. He then pulled Tongning into his embrace. "Go." After hearing these two words, Tongning lay on Immerse's muscular chest and closed her eyes. She knew that Immerse understood her. After the Ant Queen was completed, she hadn't told Xiao's son about it yet. So before the film festival, Tongning decided to visit his grave. The next morning, Tongning and Long Jie arrived at Xiao Sen's grave with fresh flowers and a copy of the Ant Queen, because she thought Xiao's son could finally rest in peace. "Xiao Sr., I'm back. The film is completed. Have you seen it? I've done what I promised you. I'm sure you'll be happy in heaven to find out about this. You were so desperate for this film to be released. Now, I have fulfilled your wish, but I will continue to carry your dream forward." Long Jie stood behind Tongning. As she watched Tongning and Xiao Sun speak, her heart was filled with emotions. She knew that Xiao Sen's death would always be a knot in Tongning's heart, and she would always feel guilty towards him. "Let's go. We're going to be late," Long Jie urged. Tongning stared at Xiao Sen's grave for a few minutes before she turned around and said to Long Jie, "Let's go. I can change in the car. Zaheo is already on his way. Let's meet up in a bit." That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.